Hello, and welcome to the Twilight Zone, where we live in a simulation and none of this is real. Just kidding. I'm kidding. You are listening to Just Chillin', and I am one of your hosts, Sean.
And I am your other host, Andy. And today, folks, as hinted upon a couple of weeks back or over the last couple of weeks, and now confirmed because he's right in front of me on my screen, we have an extraordinarily special guest today. Um, we bring you
Yay!
the great Josh Chapman. Josh, how are
Thank
you, mate?
Hi, hello. You talked me up even more than Struthers. I never thought anybody would top the intro to what you gave Eric Struthers when he was on this podcast. But it's lovely to see you guys. It's hello from Sunday over here.
Yeah, you're in the future.
I'm in the
You're in the
future. It's looking
future.
nice. The sun's out. It's good.
Excellent, excellent. It's not over here, but yes, yeah. We got Sean. We got Sean Saturday afternoon. You got me Saturday evening, and you're in the future on a Sunday morning.
Yeah.
But
So
no. Josh, you had to come on. In fact, you should have come on a lot earlier. Both Sean and I have talked about this a long time. You are equally as responsible for this podcast as Eric. In that Eric introduced us in the
top
first
that, Eric.
instance, so that Sean and I could meet over a few Guinnesses in London that first night. But my very first podcasting experience was on your pod, and as I found out retrospectively, it was Sean's as well. So
Ah,
you're the
did,
man.
did you
You're the
learn also
man.
that it's not that hard? Because I recall trying to stick a phone in your face at Celebration numerous
Yeah.
times to try and get some content for my goddamn blog pods. Going, I'm just going to talk to everybody and get some point. And you looked at me like I'd stuck a poo in your face. You just scrunchy and were like, nope, nope, I definitely can't be doing that. Nope, I won't be doing that. And I'm like, all right, well, I won't push the envelope. And then I think you sort of warmed up to the idea by the time we got to the I assume it
We
was
I
broke
the
him.
think
We broke
yeah, we
him.
broke him.
Yeah.
You realize
I
that we're
think I
we're all just charlatans and we're just normal, idiots. There's nothing that special about it. Like, I can do this.
I wouldn't put it that way, but what I did realize is that very, very quickly you were actually genuine and normal people. You got to remember the first time I met you when you tried to shove that, try to shove that recording device, funky
Mm,
recording device that you had in my face. I was an outsider. I didn't know any of you guys, and I was very much in awe of what you did as a group of people. And so the idea of me contributing to your content was, quite frankly, laughable. Um, but um, but in my mind, but
yeah,
over time, certainly over
reality
that
kicked in.
weekend, and then over time after that, as I got to know you guys, it's like actually no, these dudes are really good, and there's no ego,
I
which was
think
the main thing.
when we get to the celebration talk later, spoilers for later on, I think that'll sort of play into, I suppose, what my attitude is to people who want to be involved as well. You know what I mean? Like, I
Mm,
think we'll get to
mm.
that, but I think that plays a part to it because we were. I'll save it till we get there because it'll come up. So spoilers for later on.
Sizzle. Little sizzle there.
Sizzle for later on. Sorry, spoilers. Sizzle
Well,
for
no,
later on.
let's come out. Let's be open about it. As normal, those of you that have stuck with us and may have listened to a special guest episode before, we typically try and change the format because typically the first hour and a half or so, in fact, could argue 2 hours, is basically Sean and I just rambling on about stuff that's on top of mind that we like and that we want to talk about. But we try to apply some structure when we have a special guest like Josh on. And so because celebration is very, very close, or feels closer than it ever has because that's what they call time. Um, uh, it seemed really, really appropriate that we get Josh on, and b to talk about for this to be our first episode, which we're going to coin the Road to Celebration Part One. Um, but before we get there, we will have a little bit of preamble, if that's okay with everyone. And just want to find out from you guys what you've been up to the last week or so. You know, what's been top of mind, maybe what you've been consuming on TV or at the movies, or what you've been reading, and any news that has been top of mind that we can spend 5 or 10 minutes apiece on. And in traditional fashion, our esteemed guest, Josh. what have you been up to the last couple of weeks? What's got you excited? What's got you perhaps a little bit a bit worried?
Well,
What's rocking your world?
yeah, I mean, obviously, there's the obvious stuff everybody's worried about and things, and I don't think I'm alone. And we're in a somewhat privileged position, being in a country that's a long, long way away, and but we are influenced by all those things. And the thing people when it get empowered by certain things and think certain ways and think that they're right does influence us as well. So I won't dwell on all that, but it's definitely front of mind, and especially now that I have a lot of friends who live there and are in it and are affected and are worried. So it does bring it a lot closer to home. And I've talked to people, my family, and other people, friends as well, who know I have American friends, and they were sort of asking, I'm like, yeah, it's. And people are like, I can't believe this. And I said, well, it's like anywhere. You get one nice people, you get weirdos, you get idiots, you get people who are just worried about their back pockets or have other fears that can be played upon and being told anything. And they'll go for it because they think it's better than what they have. And I won't dwell on too much of that. But it just, if I'd sort of just gone straight into like, oh, I've been doing a lot of Batman stuff at the moment, I think it would have been silly if I had just touched on it. But as far as stuff consuming, I mean, a lot of stuff sort of just ended show wise. So we were sort of looking for new things to consume. We've just started watching a show called Rivals. Do you know what Rivals is, Andy? Oh, he's making a face. um,
Yes, I do. Yeah, I do. It's
we've just
yeah,
started it though, but
mate,
it's
mate, explain it. It's hilarious. Explain it,
so
please.
it's on Disney Plus, and it's a show set in the 80s in Britain, where the premise is essentially that Britain has the BBC, which is the great public broadcaster, where all the prestigious content and all the content comes from, and the country pays for it, and blah 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 blah. And but it's basically based around the rise of commercial television in Britain in the 80s, that they started giving out licenses for other companies to make TV. So a lot of rich people started producing their own content, and then there's all this kind of crazy money being thrown around at talent and to try to woo them over to these commercial things. And we've only really watched the first episode, but it's very British excess. Everyone's a bit randy. Everyone's a little bit outrageous. David Tennant's sort of there chewing the scenery as only he can. And then you kind of go, oh, there's somebody from the Inbetweeners was in that. And oh, there's the lady from the IT crowd. And there's all these sort of, as somebody who spent a lot of time in Britain, I sort of love seeing all those familiar faces and it being very British and outrageous. And it's good fun. So I'd
It is
recommend
good
that.
fun. It is good fun, and just for context, it's written. Rivals is a book written by an author called Jilly Cooper. Now, Jilly Cooper was extremely prolific in the 80s, being a lady that wrote books most sorry focused on the aristocracy and the elite of the UK, if you like. So you're talking about folk that have been born with a silver spoon in their mouth,
Mm,
and they're all a little bit raunchy. These books are all rather raunchy. She's an extremely proper lady. If you see her ever being interviewed, she's extremely posh
mm.
lady, but she writes these.
Saucy
She is
books.
the Yeah, she is the UK version of Jackie Collins. Does that make sense? Does that provide context? So
Yeah. Yeah.
Jackie Collins, a bunch of raunchy titillation books, novels.
Excess, rich, about rich
Exactly.
people. Yeah.
Bit, Lucky Bitch, all those kind of. Not that I've read many, obviously, but she wrote all these books, and they are seen as wonderful trashy novels. I mean, they are purposely trashy. Um, and then you've got this new production which nobody saw coming, and it's actually quite good
Yeah.
because it doesn't take itself seriously. It is tongue in cheek. The references they make to the 80s, which is when it's set, are really, really good. And the social political environment at the time are really, really good. And I rolled my eyes when Lucy and the girls started watching it and became hooked relatively quickly. It's really, really good. It's really, really good.
Yeah, we've just
Um,
started it, but yeah, we're in. But we were sort of just looking for that next thing to watch, really. And yeah, it's got that sort of silly, saucy kind of vibe to it,
Yeah. Yeah.
which is good. So we've been doing that, and then What We Do in the Shadows final season started as well. So we're a big fan of that crew. So it's good to have that back as well. And then there hasn't really been much else that we finished Agatha all along. That's one of the Marvel ones that I can bring Kat over on because she liked WandaVision. She likes Catherine Hahn, so it's a good sell. And she, if I was saying, "Oh, do you want to watch most of the other, Hawkeye?" She'd be like, "Bleh, no thanks." But Agatha all along was a pretty easy sell, and she enjoyed that, and I enjoyed that too, so that was good. And yeah, what else have I been consuming? I've been on a bit of a Batman kick at the moment, just in the comics, sort of just reading comics on my iPad because the Absolute Batman 2 came out, 1 came out. So which is just a new run on Batman, which is written by a guy called Scott Snyder, who sort of wrote Batman when they relaunched it a few years ago in the new 52. And he's a really good Batman writer, and he sort of periodically comes back to it. And it's this sort of different take on Batman. They've got this Absolute run is where they're kind of reimagining. It's still Batman, but they're kind of reimagining the origin a little bit. So his parents still get
Nice.
killed, but he's not a billionaire. He's like a construction worker. But they've kind of made him so he's this massive beast of a man, and he's kind of using his brute strength as much as he doesn't have the resources that sort of Batman's always had. But I kind of went, oh, and I started reading that, and then I kind of went back through stuff I had on my iPad. So I started having a look at Zero Year and Long Halloween, and some of my really favorite ones. I was just like, I just started reading just when I would go out to lunch because I work from home. I would walk out and go have lunch somewhere and take my iPad and just read while I have lunch
Nice.
and be the sort of the dude in the corner reading his comics in the corner and things. So that's kind of that's sort of what I've been up to the last few weeks as far as consuming media, and the rest is just sort of home family stuff. We've got a few more weeks of the year before because Australia, we obviously our summer's the end of the year, so we start winding down. School winds up in about 6 or 7 weeks. I'm on holidays at the end of the year for a month. They kick all the
Nice.
contractors out for a month for Christmas, so which is good. They just say don't come back till mid-January, and we'll just be at the beach, hopefully for a few weeks, trying not to get sunburned.
Gutted.
Yeah, so
Gutted.
it'll be nice.
Terrible life. Terrible life. What about? I was going to bring up some of the recent news, but I know I listened to your recent pod with your recent episode. Oh, by the way, folks, if you don't know Josh, then I can't believe you. Actually, I can't believe you don't know Josh. If you
Then
listen
you're a
to this,
liar.
yeah. So Josh obviously is the everything. The figurehead is Star Wars Spelt Out, and his recent episode with Matt Mole talking about recent news and everything is actually really quite good. It's very, very good. The goods and the bads, and the looking forward to the future. It's a really, really good episode. So I was going to talk about that in my part, but to save me doing that, what about the news that you've been hearing recently, both about anything about Star Wars, but also anything else that you may well have picked up on as well?
Yeah, I mean, it's a confusing time for a Star Wars fan, but I think it's the same for everything. We're sort of living in this weird post-acolyte world. A show that I really, really loved that didn't do as well as they would have liked to, based on what they spent on it. I think is basically what it comes down to. If the show had cost half as much or less, probably wouldn't have mattered as much. But because of what it was, and it became less about what the show was and more what it represented, I think, which made it difficult because it had a queer lady who ran it. There was a tiny, tiny, tiny bit of gayness in it, which was less than Agatha all along, which actually had like male and female gay kissing in it as well. I don't know. I don't follow Marvel YouTube, so maybe they're all just as outraged, but who knows? I got no idea. But
Aubrey Plaza carries a lot of weight with that group. They're like, oh, shit's fine because it's her. And we like her.
What is that? Why is that? Is that just because of Parks and Rec, or is it just?
I think
just 'cause
she's that.
cool?
I mean, I
can't
love
be
Aubrey
effed with?
Plaza too, but I think she is kind of like that ideal. Like for a lot of them, it's like, oh, she's funny, but like, she's kind of mysterious, like that unobtainable celebrity. She's white. I think that goes a long way with them.
Interesting.
Just kind of like dry and funny, but not overly funny, like not too funny. Like she just kind of sits in that like safe space for them,
Mm,
for a lot of them. But no, it's
interesting.
no shade against her. I love Aubrey Plaza.
No. I've never
Not
heard.
not
I've never heard that theory before. I always just feel like she would just be someone to not pull any punches, who
yeah.
might be polite to your face and probably tear you apart behind your back if she needs to.
I think
That's
she
an
kind of has
interesting
that
one.
snarky kind of like I think they relate to that like F your feelings kind of mentality. Like
Oh,
she's gonna say
okay, yeah.
whatever, and it's like, yeah, she's not gonna be PC. It's like I think you don't know who she really is. I think you know her character, but I've gone
Yeah,
down the
yeah,
rabbit hole.
okay. No,
So
that's I've just never heard that, it's really interesting. Um, so but yeah, so now it's sort of like, well, given the scrutiny and the criticism and everything that it got and the sort of the weird celebration that it wasn't coming back and also the despair from people who really loved it and got a lot out of it, what does that mean going forward? Does it if we've got Skeleton Crew, which comes out in a few weeks, does it get the same scrutiny off the bat? Probably not, because it's the guy who made Spider-Man is doing it, so it gets somewhat of a pass beforehand. And now they've just announced that they've got a guy called Simon Kinberg who's going to do a Star Wars trilogy, who
Mm,
hasn't got the greatest track record as far as quality, but has made a lot of Marvel stuff and probably again doesn't won't invite that backlash until it's out, if it
right,
sucks.
right.
So until then, so basically there won't be the sort of like they won't have the ammunition to basically go after it beforehand until they see it, as far as like, we're just going to pick the holes. He won't be, there's no clear agenda that he will be running, because he's just a white dude making Star Wars. As
Funny,
far as there's no lens that you're going to be putting everything through beforehand, um, for good or
funny you
bad.
should say that. Funny you should say that. You use the word clear, and I think my biggest, I wouldn't say a concern, because quite frankly, I'll take whatever I get. You know, it's not. I'm too old to get worried about stuff, but some clarity would be really, really good, because you've obviously got, and you mentioned this with Matt, so I don't really want to regurgitate a very fine episode that other people should listen to. But some clarity around what's going. I almost I almost regret them saying anything. I know that Star Wars themselves, sorry, I know that Lucasfilm themselves haven't actually publicly said something, but the fact that a, p- the media are now talking about it, and it's pretty much been confirmed by Simon on his social media. It's like, guys, did you have to do this? Because the more we see, the more expectation there is, and when things do need course correction or need to change, the more shit you're going to get. You know, the more nonsense is going to come out of folk. And I just, if it's going to
what is
happen,
it?
then great. But I would love to get clarity as to what it's about. You know, does it, is he now taking over the writing of the Daisy film? Is
Mm.
the Daisy film part of this trilogy? Um, you can't, you in my mind, you can't suggest something in something as aggressive and visceral as the internet without there being some very, very clear guidelines, or some very, very clear swim lanes as to what is going on
Mm.
and how it's going to happen.
Well, there are
Like I
very
said,
few.
it's almost worth them not doing not doing anything at
Yeah, I
all
mean,
for
there
the
are
time
very
being.
few. I mean, they've kind of. I mean, they've always been burnt by announcements before, and it's hard because it carries scrutiny. Probably, well, probably Marvel aside, or probably par with Marvel. Some DC
Mm,
stuff, but no other film stuff is scrutinized like this at all for
mm,
anyone. So millions of productions all come and go, have problems, lose directors, change hands, do things. I think it's a pretty common thing in the industry, and I think it's always
yeah,
like, well, they're trying to get this thing going, and they're engaging, and things just don't work out. So it's either you do nothing, or you try to do things in complete secrecy, and then you drop it when it comes out, which is basically impossible, or
Well,
you
see
get ahead of it.
that's
It's
yeah. Well, I think to Andy, your point, it's like I'm almost on the opposite side of the fence. It's like because I think clarity doesn't help anybody. Like, you're not going to satisfy anybody. Like, there's no, like, we're bringing a rational argument and a rational thought process to an irrational internet and fan base. Like,
Okay.
And that
if
just
you,
gives
if
you
you,
basically
if,
something to put it against. If you came out and you said, Simon Kinberg is directing episodes 10, 11, 12, they will star Rey starring the New Jedi Order, and we're going to have John Boyega, and we're going to have, Oscar Isaac are coming back, and we got Adam Driver back, and we did this, and they're coming out on these dates, and they're going to start production here, 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 and here. Then you've basically given them a laundry list of stuff to nitpick against if one or more of those things don't happen.
Okay.
It's like, well, you said Oscar Isaac was coming back, and now Oscar Isaac, fell off a train and got decapitated and he's not in it anymore. I hope that doesn't happen, but I was trying to think of an extreme thing to happen. But, and then obviously we've had strikes, we've had COVID, we've had all these things that mess up people's schedules. And, it's hard enough to get people on a podcast on schedules, let alone trying to make movies and things like that based on hundreds of people's schedules and things. But like you said, Sean, the internet will never be satisfied. And I think I mentioned that. I think it's impossible. I think you've just got to, it sounds corny, but you've just got to believe in yourself and stick to your guns and hope for the best, and do the best you can, and kind of go, well, it's not going to be for everybody. I know we say Star Wars is for everyone, and it's designed for everyone to go and watch it and enjoy it, but everyone's not going to get the same thing out of it. I think it's up to you what you bring to the table.
It's like, for me, it'd be like, I would love it if Star Wars never addressed the it's not even a rumor, like, never addressed it until there was something tangible. Like, I would love it if we never heard about stuff until there was a poster. Like, I'm tired of the days of like seeing titles at like Hall H of like Lando or Droid Story or all the other things. It's like, and it is impossible to like seal all the leaks. Like, these industry insiders, you're gonna know. You're gonna know what contracts are signed. You're gonna know all this stuff, but it's like you can have a better working relationship with these industry insiders to say like, hey, can we kind of like cooperate here a little bit instead of just going for clickbait nonsense where you just leak everything that you have, like, because I feel like you're never gonna get rid of Deadline. And like, to me, like, I like Deadline, but it's like they are the bane of my existence when it comes to social media and outrage online. It's like, just stop. I know you got to make money, but stop leaking stuff. Like, please.
But is it more like if they, if they get an email or they whatever, someone goes like, hey, Simon Kinberg is making new Star Wars movies, and they go, great, publish. Do you think they get a moment of going, hey, Lucasfilm, we've got this. Do you want to confirm or deny or get ahead of this? Or are they just literally like, we've got something that is going to blow us up for 24 hours. We put it out and we've got it. Like, I don't think it even enters their mind that they go to the table and try to lose traction on the story, because they're like, well, if we've got it, how do we know that the next email is going through to bloody moviepoopshoot.com or whatever? And it's like,
my impression of like media is like, I think a romanticized 1950s version where they're like,
with a bunch of
we got the inside
like,
scoop, stop the presses. And it's like,
just
so I have no idea.
Like, is Deadline literally just like a couple of people in a house? Do they have offices? Do they have? I've got no idea how big or small these things are. Like, I know Variety and Entertainment Tonight are reasonably big places, but
well, they have those websites where you can go and see all the public contracts and stuff for Hollywood, like all the Hollywood, like what's getting signed, and like I think a lot of these places just use that kind of stuff to say like,
sort of
okay, when you start
documents and things,
you're trolling patents and things like that. It's like, oh, the movie Disney registered these movie titles where they sign these contracts for blah 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 and this, and they can start piecing things together and then asking.
Oh, is that where they picked up on a Star Wars Pirates being a trademark? Is that the kind of stuff that wasn't that one of those?
I believe so. I believe it was. Yeah,
wasn't it? Yeah. So it's kind of like these weird algorithm things. Just I mean, Sean, you're the tech man. You probably know, but they're just sort of hitting databases continually on certain words. And if you get a return going, oh, well, there's a new thing that pinged on Star Wars that wasn't there before, or Disney, Lucasfilm, on a bunch of keywords, and it's enough.
A really good example is Yakface. If you follow Yakface on Instagram,
that's the same thing. Toys.
The way they track down like Lego sets and Star Wars toys, like by their SKUs, they get registered. It's no different than that.
It's interesting
Yeah.
because you're bringing me round, gentlemen. You're bringing me round because I guess no. Well, no. About the detail side of things, we don't need the detail because I guess that if we cast our mind back, what 3, maybe 4 years, where they had that, was it a shareholders meeting where you had Feige with the timeline, the Marvel timeline, and he's
Mm,
pretty much, with the exception of having to course correct over the Kang, is it the
yep.
Kang stuff?
Yeah,
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah,
yeah.
for obvious reasons. He's pretty much kept that timeline. Whereas the start and then the Lucasfilm team came in almost 30 minutes later in the same investors call and did that timeline, and well, that's shot to shit now, right? I mean, that doesn't. So you're probably right. Less detail, the better. What about the trailer? And again, I know you've spent some time on this,
Skelly
Josh, but I
Crew.
would love. Yeah, what do you think?
I really enjoyed it. I love the like the boom, 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 the pace of it, and I think I mentioned
Yeah,
on Spelt Out with Matt that I watched it with my girls, and this will be the first Star Wars thing that we'll watch together as a family. I'll watch it first to do the reviews with you guys, but
yeah,
as far as we'll sit, I think we'll make it an appointment television. We'll sort of go, all right, kids, we'll sit down before bed and we'll watch Skeleton Crew because my kids still go to bed quite early, so we can have some grown up time without the kids around. But I think we'll go. Hey, it's Wednesday night, 7:30. You guys can stay up a little bit and we'll watch Skeleton Crew before you go to bed. Like I think it'll be at least we'll attempt it if they hold the interest. But it seems like it, and it yeah. I mean, it just feels like good fun. I think
And that's
that's
what we
all that
need.
footage
That's what we
is
need
from the
more of.
first 2 episodes.
Fun.
Yeah, I think it's just fun. And I was watching I watched Return of the Jedi on Friday night with my girls. So
nice.
Kat was out at the theater, and Sloane, my youngest, hadn't seen Return of the Jedi yet. So that's where she was up to. She started at 1, and we've gotten to 6. And well, let's pop this on. And it was quite funny because I just tweeted, "Oh, we're just watching Return of the Jedi." Occasionally still use Twitter, and Nathan Hamill replied back and said, "What's that? what movie is that?" And it was quite
Nice.
nice. And I just said, "I don't know, but they really like the lightsaber guy," and he liked that as well. So Nathan, actually,
Excellent.
we follow each other. He's a lovely guy, Nathan Hamill. But so that was quite cool. And but yeah, they really loved it. And I was just kind of going, oh, just like adventure. There was just some fun adventure in it, and I don't have to explain how good Return of the Jedi is, but yeah, they really loved it. Sloane really enjoyed it. She got a bit freaked. The Emperor freaked her out a little bit, which was
Me too.
reminded me of me when I saw it at the cinema in
Yeah.
1983, and I was probably almost exactly the same age. But she got through it and really loved the Ewoks, and now we roll on to 7 soon. So
And then
I think
you got that same wonder I
yeah,
feel with Skeleton Crew as well. And I please rewind, folks, to the very, very beginning of or the very, very the origin of this podcast. But Skeleton Crew is the one that I've been looking forward to the most, outside of Lando, which we didn't have, which we still don't have as a solid project. But Skeleton Crew, it's such the polar opposite of Andor. I'm really looking forward to it because I'm
I
looking
just don't
forward.
want
Of
to
course, I'm
hear.
looking forward to.
Sorry, I was just
Sorry,
gonna say, I just don't want to hear someone go, "This just looks like it's done for kids." I'm like, yeah, duh.
funny that,
Either
funny
your
that.
kids or the kid inside of you. If that's what
Yeah,
it's for,
yeah,
like I don't,
funny
and I
that.
think there'll be peril and and it'll probably have moments of all that kind of stuff. I don't think it's going to be Caravan of Courage level here. I think there'll be, and I don't think it'll be Stranger Things as well. I think it'll
No,
sit in that Goonies Explorers ET kind of middle ground where there's peril, but there's it's not going to get grim, particularly.
but
But
like you, I sat down. I very rarely am able to enjoy any Star Wars with my family. They'll come to me when there's a new movie. They'll come with me when it's a new movie.
mhm.
On my third or fourth viewing, we'll finally do one as a family.
Dad could watch it
Um,
and calm down now, so we
and
can go.
and typically, yeah, there's no way I'm going out with you at midnight, Dad. You're a damn nerd. There's no way.
Are
Um,
you an audible movie watcher for the first time? Like when you watch Star Wars, do you like a whoa, whoa,
yeah,
or is that
no,
like I
I'm
could
not.
Okay.
I'm not at
I
all.
was just
I'm not
wondering.
at all. You can't be. Josh will back me up on this. You can't make any noise in the cinema in the UK. You're not allowed. It's just not. It's
No,
just not.
I remember
Not
going
the
to a
done
couple
thing.
of midnight Star Wars, the new ones, when Star Walking put them on, and when Steel Saunders from Steel Wars was organising them, and sitting in a big theater, and thanks for having it. You could just hear Steel like like down in the corner, like loud. He very excitable down there. So I don't, but they were quite good screenings, just to completely divert, because it was the very excited, respectful crowd. Everyone's there for the same thing. Everyone cheered at the right time, but then stopped at the right time. Everybody was
Yeah,
quiet
yeah,
at the right time. There was no like movie talkers or any of that kind of nonsense and stuff. That's why those screens were always good fun, even though it's midnight and by the time you come out, up is down, and you know you're.
yeah.
But
But
yeah,
going back to Andor. So Andor is the only TV series that Lucy has sat down with me to watch, and she sat down and watched it, and begrudgingly, and I said, "Just watch, just trust me. We've been together a while now. Just trust me. I think you'll like this." And she loved it, and
mm,
it's something that I repeat every single time that I talk about Andor. She loved it as a drama. It just so happened to be in the
yep,
Star Wars universe. I showed her the trailer for Skeleton Crew, and the minute it stopped, she said, "That's more like it. That's more like it."
yeah,
So she loves the polar opposite. She loves the drama of Andor. She
hmm,
loves and she's really looking forward to the excitement that Skeleton Crew promises. And anything else that she's kind of joined me with in the middle, including Mando, it's kind of been like, yeah, but it takes itself so seriously.
yeah,
It takes itself so way too seriously. So she's also agreed to watch it with me. So I'm really looking forward to that. And then the last thing I'll comment on this was that the choice of music, the rehash of Major Tom, as in the trailer, was a stroke of genius. Absolute
mm,
stroke of genius. Getting the lyrics, and I think it's in Huttese. It may well be in
yeah, yeah,
Arabesh, but getting that, it was like, this is what this film's about.
yeah,
It's a meta. It's a descriptor for the film. This is what this. These are the vibes that this film. Sorry, this TV series is. These are the vibes that this TV series are meant to give you. Do you remember this? In that case, that's what you'll get with it. And I thought it was genius. It was also genius because it wound up a few haters on the socials that clearly haven't watched many other Star Wars properties or Star Wars films that also have a modern take on music outside of the main score. So
yeah,
yeah, no,
yeah.
loved it.
Well, I think John Watts as well. Like he having like with his Spider-Man stuff, he really tapped into the teenage side of Peter Parker, and really
Yeah,
could capture the school teenage experience. And it wasn't like probably some of the other Spider-Man movies where it was a bunch of 25-year-olds being teenagers. Like the kids felt like kids and teenagers, and you got that feel. And I love Spider-Man, and one of my favorite things in any Spider-Man movie is just him swinging through the building like woo, like he's just like, I'm having the
yeah, yeah,
best time. It's the
Yeah.
joyfulness of it, of doing that, and the youthful exuberance of it that that Tom Holland brings it, which is brilliant. So he's got that way of tapping into the young, and these kids are obviously a little bit younger than Peter Parker is, but I yeah, I just think that it's going to really revolve around these kids as well, which at the same time means that it's a little bit on their backs, I suppose. And I think it's why it's good to have a name like Jude Law in there as well, because he can shoulder a lot of that and bounce off that. But it's the doe-eyed, the excitement of having. We haven't really had, we've closest we've got is sort of like a Caravan of Courage, where you've got
yeah,
seeing this through the eyes of a kid who sort of gets whisked off onto this thing. And I think that's a very probably deliberate reason why that was it Teak from Battle of Endor, whether it's the
yeah,
same creature or, but I think very
Mhm.
conscious of like, well, how do we tie this back to this slightly younger skewing adventures where you see this big galaxy through children's eyes, and what does that look like? And which is
Well, you
great for
have
kids
kids in
because they
there.
can really
They're
place themselves there. They're not trying to be 30-year-old Harrison Ford or even 20-year-old Carrie Fisher. It's sort of like 11-year-old,
yeah.
10-year-olds through there or whatever they're supposed to be. So yeah, I've got high hopes, and we'll see. Or like, if it's just like a little thing and it's an adventure and they get into some hijinks and they get home and everyone's safe, then great. Or if it turns out that it's this, we're actually just scratching the surface and it leads into this much bigger thing, then we'll see how it goes. Cool. Bring it
Thanks,
on.
mate. I know you've been through this already,
No, it's fine. I'm happy to talk about it.
I want to get your take again for this particular episode. Sean, buddy, how's your week been since we last spoke?
Well, I'm
How are you
home.
keeping? How are you feeling? Most importantly, and
Well,
why would
I
you?
have COVID, and so that's fun.
That's so 2020.
Yeah, I'm feeling really like it's been a wild week. Let me tell you what. It's been I mean, for obvious reasons. Madison wanted me to start a new segment on the show called Just Immigrating, where we talk about how to apply for citizenship in different countries. And she was like, I don't know if Andy and Josh want to like fight over who gets you or fight to see who doesn't want you the most and like makes you go to the other country. So we'll sort that one out in the future. We got time. But
Are you and Madison
yeah,
married, if you don't mind me asking?
we are not. We might as well be. We have a mortgage and a car.
Oh yeah, the same as me and
and
Kat, but that means you've got that little window of opportunity where you could make some calls and you haven't quite cut off that avenue of possibility yet.
Yeah.
You could,
She's so I did. She's like, oh, we could go to New Zealand. It's like, but Australia would be bad. I feel like there's more opportunity. So then she went down the rabbit hole on Wednesday and was like, I think Melbourne would be a good. They have a lot of opportunities there. They have, we could do this, and it's like, well, let's take it a day at a time. Let's not fill out
let's
the
not pack the
paperwork
van just yet.
just yet. But let's keep it on the front burner and like let's do some investigating and see how keep our options open. But yeah. So there's that. I believe I got COVID at the Taylor Swift concert. If I had to guess, if I had to put my finger on it, was probably the 69,000 people I was surrounded by. One of them probably had it. So
how many of those are
I
like?
will.
I mean, I haven't been to a Taylor Swift concert. Sorry to interrupt, mate, but like,
No worries.
I know, like Madison's like well into it, and you're going along because it's an experience, and I'll go along, I'll enjoy myself because it'll be an experience. Like, how are you sort of just surrounded by people yelling and singing almost the whole time? As far as like going, well, I'm just getting people sort of with their mouths open singing the whole time, and I'm just surrounded by this sort of. Or is
I
it
will
sort
be
of depends
honest.
on the song and
Yeah, I think it depends on the song, and I think it probably also depends on where you are. I will admit that's probably the craziest concert I've ever been to in my life. And I've been to a lot of concerts. Like that was. I'm glad I went. I'm not a Swiftie. I'm not a huge like. I like her more now. I know some of her songs. I know like I appreciate it. But going to that was like, oh, I get it. Like I get why this has been a big deal. It wasn't just a concert. Like I was telling Andy last week, I'm like, oh man, I thought I was like, I'm like, yeah, I'll go. I thought I was gonna go and like show up for a concert, like a normal concert, and it's gonna be a 3.5, 4 hour long concert. No, this was like, so our concert was at Friday at 7 p.m. We got down to Indianapolis at 6 a.m. We're doing the whole city was like the streets were renamed. Everywhere had like specials and like custom coffees and companies were handing out friendship bracelets. The whole city was just completely Taylor Swift.
Taylor
like we have
Town.
this bit
Yeah.
Taylor Town. They put her graphic on like this like 50-story building, just top to bottom, just her standing there. Like it was insane. Then going to this concert, I was one of the ones who thought it would be like what other people have reported, where you just have somebody kind of screaming in the back of your head the whole time. And so like you can't really hear it. I didn't have that problem, but it may have been because the speakers were so incredibly loud, like in a good way. Like I couldn't hear anybody. Like the show was just, I mean, I have my own complaints. Like I don't like her newest album. I wish she didn't add that to the show. Like I think it was better. But like, so then the other thing that made it nice was Madison and I both didn't. So Madison likes Taylor Swift, but she hasn't followed any of the stuff online. Like we haven't watched the Disney Plus show, the concert.
Yeah.
She didn't know anything about it. So she's just going in completely blind. And I do think that made it better because we were like amazed by everything that happened. And then when we got home, we watched the Disney Plus thing, and it's like, oh, yeah, I'm glad we didn't watch this later because that thing wouldn't have felt as special because it's done everywhere. And then also like,
Yeah.
oh, we really like that song, but she didn't play that there. And just like you see, and it's not the same vibe. You have to be in that arena with 70,000 people, just like the electricity is just insane. It's like the celebration hall, like the main hall when like they're announcing a new trailer or like Daisy Ridley comes out, but like 70,000 people there. Yeah. And it's just like, oh my God, this is crazy. Like you get goosebumps and just like the vibes were super positive, and it was just I could see over everybody. So I could see it was fantastic.
Yeah, right. Because you'd be one of the taller people. Yeah, well, she came through in February in Australia. So, you know, it was the same thing for, you know, she did 3 shows at the MCG, which is our cricket ground. Andy, you'd be familiar with the MCG. You know, it's the biggest stadium in the Southern Hemisphere. It's 100,000. It's round as well. It's huge. So for the week that she's here, it's the center of the universe. It's the same thing. It was the businesses and you know, it's all good for the economy and blah blah blah. And because our stadiums are all near public transport, they're not car parks, so they're all parkland around. People just take the train station there. So it means that we got all the people who couldn't get in were all just having picnics around the perimeter of the stadium as well. So it was this sort of double party where we knew people who were going, well, we didn't get in, but we're just going to go down and sit out the front and listen to the show and, you know, take a bottle of wine. And
good. As an aside, good venue for celebration in the future.
The MCG.
Yeah.
Well, we always sort of talk about, we think Melbourne could pull off a celebration. We do have a very good convention centre, but it'd be trying to get people on a plane to come down here, punters and stars. But you never know. Otherwise, it would be a lot of like celebrating episodes 2 and 3 that were shot in Sydney, and we can pull out all the Australian soap actors who are in those.
You never know.
In those movies.
You might get more of a hunger for it this time round because you might get prospective people looking for new countries to live in.
Oh, you think it'll be like when they, you know, they have the Olympics in some countries and people from war-torn countries don't leave. You know, it's like the goalkeeper from the South Sudanese team went missing in the hotel and things like that. Shaun and Madison went missing in the Melbourne Convention Hall.
Catch me if you can. You got to find me first.
Yeah. They were just hiding out in Northcote for a while. There's a local net reference for you.
But yeah, the show was crazy.
I was going to say that. So the show was your final swan song before heading back home, right?
Yeah. Then we went back. We stayed the night downtown after that. I mean, I was up from 5 a.m. that morning until 3 a.m. that night, just doing all. That's probably why I have COVID. Yeah, to be honest. Yeah. And it was crazy. Like I'm not. Like I have my criticisms of Taylor Swift that nobody cares to hear, and I don't care to tell them, like, because it doesn't matter. But I was just infinitely impressed. It was crazy. What was really funny is we had Halloween the night before at my brother's house, and my sister-in-law's dad, who I'm pretty sure used to be a secret agent, like, but he will not admit it, like a physically violent kind of one. Like he found out we had tickets, and he, like, at one point in time, he's very dry. Like you can't tell when he like is joking or not. Like he came up to me and was like, I'll give you $5,000 like for the ticket. And I'm like, for both or just the one? He's like, just for one. And at the time I was like, oh no, like she'll kill me. Like, cause I think the tickets were going for about $3,000 to $8,000, depending on where you were, where you were in this, let's say each per ticket. And I was like, oh, he's just joking. Like, I'm like, no, she'll kill me. Then later on that night, I'm like, wait, I think he was serious. Like, and we all started talking about it. He's like, yeah, like, but then it became the question of like, well, who is he buying it for? I'm like, well, did he want to go? Was he buying it for my niece, who's like his granddaughter? Like
$5,000, you can keep your legs as well.
It's like, oh god, did I just like lose points with him? Like I thought we were pretty cool. He kind of scares me. But it's like, no. He's like, you're an idiot. I'm about to give you $5,000 cash for a ticket. It's like, I thought he was joking. I thought he was joking, but I'm glad I went. It was fun. Crazy. Sure. I mean, it's hard to put into words just what it was like and seeing. Like it reminded me of Celebration, like with just the positive,
It's the
the
energy,
positivity. Just
feeling
and
the energy,
yeah,
sort of. Yep.
I don't know
Yeah.
how people go to those concerts without earplugs, though. Like it was
Yeah,
so
I'm an earplugs guy now for concerts.
so
It,
loud, but
I'm going to Pearl Jam in 2 weeks. They're playing down in Melbourne, so I'm reliving my youth, going to see Pearl Jam. And I got Oasis tickets as well a few weeks ago as well, which was
nice.
very good to be back in.
It looks like Andy's cursing
Yeah.
you, but we
Oh,
can't hear
Andy's
him.
cursing. Are you
I
muting yourself for
I
cursing?
was. Yeah, no, I
It's
was.
like
I
he's gone
was.
mute.
I
Oh
was.
no.
Listen, I saw on the socials that you got tickets, and I was thinking, God, of course he has.
Well,
Of course
I've
he
got
has.
3, and I bought
No.
2 to take my dad, and then I had another one for one of my mates, and I thought, oh, and then the night is actually my mother's birthday, and I was like, oh, she probably, my parents are pretty cool with music, like they go to
Yeah,
concerts and stuff occasionally, but I was like, oh, maybe they'll want to go, and my dad was like, well, I'll go, but it's your mum's birthday, so if you can find someone else who wants to go, that's fine. So Andy, if you can make it to Melbourne by next Halloween, there is an
sure.
Oasis ticket if you want to
No
come along.
problem. I'm not. I mean, I haven't overspent on tickets already to
Yeah,
another
I'm
venue
sure
as
a
it
flight
is.
to Melbourne where I
But
just
I've
duck
got,
in.
I've just it's growing on trees at our place. Yeah, no
Yeah.
problem. I'll be there. But no, I did see your update, and I'm thinking, well, it couldn't happen to a nicer guy, but fuck that guy. He's got
It
tickets.
it was I had no business getting them because I didn't get in the pre-sale, and I have a
Yeah,
friend I have a good friend who works at Ticketmaster who usually hooks me up, and she hooked me up for Pearl Jam and Paul McCartney, and if sometimes it's just,
right.
here's the industry access link that you can get in and you can use the allocation and there'll be good spots, and she just went, Oasis, we got nothing. Nobody got any allocation links, nobody got
No.
any special treatment, nobody
Wow.
even got any pre-sale codes, and I didn't get them. So she goes, Monday is the pre-sale day, and then Tuesday goes to the public, and that's whatever's left is whatever's left. And
Yeah. No,
Marvel
I
Stadium
think
is just
I,
not
th-
great for
I think
concerts unless you're at the very front. So
I think by the time it got to you guys, I think that the boys' management team were a lot more heavily involved in the process, whereas they
mm,
weren't. They certainly weren't when the UK went up for sale. I mean, it was carnage, man. It was absolutely
yeah,
carnage, and I'm not. I mean, I'm not gutted for myself because they're okay in my
it's
mind,
not a be
but
all and end all for you. Yeah,
for Lucy, they are they are everything, and I really, really wanted to get them for her because it's our 30th next year. It's our 30th wedding anniversary. So
ah,
it's like, oh man, that would have been such a good trip.
but
That'd
you
have been
just wait closer
such a
to,
good
and
thing.
you never know what'll happen closer
Yeah,
to as
you'd
well.
have
Like, we put the
exactly,
feelers
exactly,
out, and anything can
exactly.
happen. But
Who
yeah,
knows?
I
I might
had
win
no
the
business
lottery as
getting them,
well.
and there was 10% of tickets left on the Tuesday, and I got in with the public and got 3 in the front section. So I just couldn't believe it. And even my friend at Ticketmaster goes, I don't know how you did that. That should not have
Yeah.
been possible. So it was an absolute fluke. And then they announced another show after that anyway. But it was like
Yeah.
a Tuesday. It was like a Tuesday night. This is a Friday night, and I'm going to see Pearl Jam on a Monday night because that was all we could get, which is going to be a little bit weird, but it'll be all right. It's going to be a bunch
No,
of
it's cool, man.
grey hairs and band t-shirts, but it'll be all done by 10:30. Everybody will be in bed by then. It'll be fine. You know.
Excellent.
I'm gonna give my sister-in-law's dad your information. See if he can get that ticket off of you.
Sean, we haven't got around to the to tonight's topic. Anything else, mate, for this week?
A couple
Apart
quick
from
ones. I did pick up a couple things that while on my adventures. I picked up some art. I got picked up an R2D2
Oh, that's nice.
from
sweet.
Vegas. He's kind of like super abstract, the local artist in Vegas. I also picked up this one because it's awesome. So, are you familiar with the Vegas sphere, like the big ball
Yeah,
Mm.
yeah,
like
yeah.
covered in lights? So, there's an artist who made this. It's Yoda with the ball is the Death Star
Oh,
in
nice.
Vegas.
Nice,
So there's
nice,
that.
nice.
And this is the only one I really actually cared to show because this is my favorite. Let me see if I can scoot back a little bit. So this one is with the theme of celebration.
Ah.
Oh
Oh, it's
yes,
got the thing in it. That's cool.
So it's
it's
like a
got the
wave, but it's
Yep.
like the Rise of Skywalker with the X-wing in the water and the Death Star in the background, and it's awesome. And
Isn't that the little skiff thing she rides? It's not an X-wing, isn't she? Like the
yeah,
little
it's
That's
like
skiff
an
right.
she's
X, it's like
riding?
the X-wing skiffy thing. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. It might have made from a wrecked X-wing or something. Who knows? Yeah.
Yeah. So there's
Cool.
Nice.
that. So I'm excited
Is
about
that
that.
is that the same? Is that the same artist that's done a lot of the celebration pre-art stuff? Because that's sick.
I do not believe so.
Okay.
This was just
Okay.
some random art in Midtown in Las Vegas where we stayed
Okay.
when we were there. But that artist who's doing the celebration stuff is sick though too. Last
As like the
things before.
passes and stuff. Yep.
Oh yeah. That guy. That stuff's sick. I'm excited
Mm.
for celebration in that regard. Last couple things. I watched the John Williams documentary. It was good. Not spectacular. Like nothing to be like. It's a documentary. I thought there'd be
I don't
more
know, man.
feels.
I got
It was good.
quite emotional. I got quite emotional. I thought, what a charming guy and
Oh
what a
yeah,
humble
he's
guy. And
fantastic.
I mean, he's
Yeah.
everything that I kind of thought he was going to be, and I thought it would be. It landed as it should have done with me. I thought it was really, really good.
I haven't
Yeah, I
seen.
enjoyed
I've
it.
heard that
I
it's
enjoyed it.
more career recap rather than really digging into the man himself.
Yeah.
Is that so? It's more
Yes,
just
you're
sort
right.
of yeah.
Yeah.
And I think that's what I wanted. I was hoping it'd be more like there were nuggets of more kind of talking to him, but it was when they do the hard cuts and like, and then he did this, and then he did that. Like the first half is fantastic, and then the second half is kind of like bits and pieces for me. It was really good. I still say
I can
watch it. It was really good.
That's
I
on
can
Disney
see.
Plus
I could.
now.
Yeah, it is. It's really, really good, Josh. If you
Okay.
get an opportunity,
I will.
it's
I will.
worth an
I'll
hour and a
definitely
half.
get to it.
It's worth an hour and a half of your time. Actually, to your point, again, I'm conceding again, Sean. You're right, twice in one app. The first half is brilliant. He talks about his mum. He talks about his parents.
Yeah.
He talks about his influence on them, and the rest of it is pretty much the accolades of what happened in his career after that. So
Yeah.
I get it, but I didn't realize how much involved he was in more community-based kind of
Yeah.
music, which really gave me the feels and just kind of underlined the fact that I think the guy's awesome.
Final two things. This is the final week for the Penguin. Everybody loves the Penguin. Penguin's awesome. I'm looking forward to this finale tomorrow. And I also watched Fall Guy, which I thought was really, really good.
Shot in
Oh, cool.
Sydney.
Yeah,
It's actually got a guy in that film, a bloke called Ben Knight, who, if you just watch the movie, the great big redhead dude who's kind of chasing him
Yeah.
a lot through it.
Yeah.
He's a Australian, Melbourne-based stand-up comedian. So
Nice.
who's not a massive comedian in Australia, but he's known. But it's just weird. All of a sudden, he was just in this huge movie with Ryan Gosling, and really, really sweet dude, and good on him for,
Yeah, it was really good. I was surprised at how good that movie was. Like it was would watch, would recommend. But that's it. That's all I got. What about you, Andy?
So I'm gonna skip the week because I was away on holiday on annual leave the last week, and there's a lot to catch up with you on that. Most of it good, some of it bad. So I want to spend some time talking to you about that without bringing the show down. Bringing this show, we've got a show now, have we? Sorry, bringing the episode down with our guest here. So I'll talk a little bit about that when we go back to when we resume normal service. But the other things I picked up on this week, which I was quite excited about, was obviously I wrote down the Skeleton Crew trailer, the John Williams documentary, and of course the Simon Kinberg Star Wars trilogy. One correction or one clarification from last week. The other program I was telling you that I really, really enjoyed, but it ended too quickly, was Altered Carbon. That was the program I was talking about. So where I forgot what I was talking about, it's a show about basically the idea of this the premise of the whole thing is that when you die, if you've got enough money, you have a chip in the back of your neck and you can plug yourself into a donor body. And there's a whole bunch of there's two series around that concept, and it's really, really good. And that was the program I was talking about last week, but I won't go into any more detail than that. Couple of things in the last couple of days. Macaulay Culkin's been cast for Fallout Series 2. I love Fallout. You love Fallout. And Macaulay Culkin's being cast for season 2, which is going to be interesting. Apparently, he plays an eccentric genius. So very much in his wheelhouse.
Mm.
And then lastly, today I saw that Andor season 2 looks like it's going to be launched on the 22nd of April, which actually is a
Just saw that.
beautiful segue into our next section. I'm excited about. So that is literally a week after we leave Celebration. So I'll leave that to fester for a second while you guys think about that, while we get onto the main topic for our guest, which is really the road to Celebration. And I've got 3 questions that I'm going to ask all 3 of us in sequential order, based on Celebration, both past, present, and future. So the first question, again, guest first. Josh, what are your experiences of past celebrations? So you are a what I would consider a veteran. So just give us an idea of when your celebration journey started and the experience you've had over the years of going to them.
Yeah, I mean, I haven't done as many as most. Well, if you throw a net out, obviously there's been more of them. I've done 3 of them now, coming up to a 4th. But Chicago was the first one what we did, and it kind of just happened. I seem to recall it happened really quickly. It sort of we'd sort of made these friends probably through the community that Steel Wars podcast had put together. So we knew a few people, and we know that people had gone to them, and Steel had done a few blog pods at ones that he'd gone to, and we sort of knew people through that, really just online though. And then there was a sort of a crew of a bunch of Australians down here, people that Turbo and Andy Campbell and Catherine and some of the other guys, and we just sort of kind of exchanging messages, going, maybe we should, like, would anybody be interested? If we did it, would it be something that we could pull off and go to Chicago? Would it be even possible? And we just sort of started investigating it. And I think at the time, I think the tickets were coming up for sale. It was quite quick. I feel like there wasn't much time between when we'd sort of talked about it and the tickets were coming up. And I believe that Kat was pregnant with Sloane at the time, and well, she was born in December, and this was March, April. So I think Sloane would be born by then, but she would be 3 or 4 months old. So I think there was like a little bit of a snag. But I was also about to turn 40, so that was basically how I pitched it. I kind of went, well, I'm going to be 40. This is something that I'd like to do. Da da da. And why she's great. She's just like, yep, we'll make it work. Just go for it. It'll be fine. So we sort of got the blessing to do that. And then I seem to recall that there wasn't the mad scramble for tickets as it sort of has been the last few years. Like, I kind of feel like we just
Yeah.
sort of logged on Australian time in the morning. They'd already been for sale for a few hours. We just got in and got the tickets and it was done. It wasn't sort of like getting Taylor Swift tickets or something, or Oasis tickets. It wasn't that mad scramble of everybody that it has been the last few years, where it's sort of become that. And yeah, and we were like, okay, let's do this thing, and we started booking flights and accommodation and stuff like that. And there was this sort of weird feeling going in, because we were all us Australians were going together, and we kind of knew this wider group of people were going to be there, but we didn't really, because people are excited, like, yeah, we'll see you there, but you don't really know what that's going to be. You kind of go, well,
No.
if I see Hawes there, and I go, oh, hi, Hawes, nice to meet you. And he's like, hey, buddy, thanks, good on you. Thanks for coming. Good to see you. And then he goes off, and that's the end of the interaction. You don't know whether that's what it is. And we kind of went, well, if that's what it is, we will have each other at least. So we'll have a little crew,
Yeah.
and we can kind of rely on that. And we knew Steele was going to be there, and we're friends with Steele, but also he's a man about town there. He's in a million places, so it wasn't like we're going to be hanging off him the whole time either, as well. So we didn't sort of have that. So we were kind of like, well, we've got us, and then we'll just see how we go. And we sort of got there, on that first night we got the accommodation. Everybody started showing up, and it was, we were sort of staying near one of the houses where there was sort of like the Bad Motivators guys were there, and some of the Scruffies were there, and some other people as well. And we went around there, and then it was just like you're there with all your mates. And then we were there for a few hours, and then everybody went to a hotel into the city, and there was more people. And then all of a sudden there was dozens of people, and then the next few days, everybody was there and it was a collective. And, the first day we sort of stuck quite close to each other because they did this weird thing on Chicago the first day, which was 5 days, which is insane, where it was the thing called preview day, where it was effectively, there were no panels or anything. It was just like the floor was open and you could just walk the floor,
Right.
which just meant that it was absolutely rammed because there was nowhere else to go and nothing else to do. So everybody was on the floor. And it was very much like you kind of like pushing
And did it
past. And
work? Did you get your shopping done?
we did shopping, yeah. And people did take the opportunity to shop, but I think the registers went down. I remember Horse got stuck in the line for the registers for like 3 hours for the store or
Their
something.
network and stuff was all messed up. That was
Yeah.
horrible, especially the store. The store register
Right.
didn't get fixed for like 3 days.
And I guess the
And so it
logic
was like
was to take the pressure off it in the later days so people could do all that stuff. But it just meant everybody was on, so the first day was quite, and I think it was quite overwhelming for a couple of people. I know, it was quite, I think Catherine was quite overwhelmed on the first day and kind
Yeah.
of got into the groove. I think by the second day, she was like, all right, see you later. And everybody was off, and by the second
Yeah.
time, everybody was off doing things as well. And we that was the first year they did the lottery system as well, because we were kind of going, well, do we, because we heard all these stories about people queuing overnight and going, well, do we really want to do that? Is it cold? How does that work? I'd been awake for 30 something hours flying from Melbourne to by the time I got to Chicago, and
Sure.
and it was only quite late that the panel thing came through, and we didn't even know if we'd got anything. And I think until I landed in LA for my connecting flight and got back onto the internet. And we got like pretty much everything on that first one. We got like in the episode 9 panel, we got in the Mandalorian panel,
Wow.
we got in, which was crazy. We've never had that luck since, but that certainly made it even more special. But it certainly set the template. And I think the fact that everybody was so welcoming and wanted to engage and bring you in and look after you, and it was always
Mm.
just like, yeah, no, we're going here, we're doing this afterwards, and then we're going out, or we're going to dinner, and then we're going to, and Steele had a live show on the Saturday night at a bar, and everybody went to that, and then you would see people that you saw during the day there as well. And that's how I got to know Molly and Alex, because I'd seen them sort of on the floor surrounded by people, and I gave them a beanie as well. And then they're at the pub and they're like, oh, hey, and you're talking, and other people were there as well. And I think that's where I met Araj for the first time. And it was really just like everybody just wanted to engage and hang out and talk and things. So I think in subsequent celebrations, as you go more times and you get new people who come in, I think it just makes you very conscious that you want to give the same people the same experience and make them feel welcome as well, if they've made the effort to engage. And all you can really do is say, hey, we're doing this, we're hanging out, do you want to come along, and give him the opportunity. And some people will say yes, some people will say I've got something else to do, and kind of go like there. Like Jess Schrader, who's been on my pod a bunch of times. I didn't know Jess at all, and she knew Catherine. And we were walking out of Chicago, one at the convention center, one of the days, I think the Saturday, and Catherine was like, "Oh, aren't you Jess Schrader?" "Oh, yeah, did it." And she's like, "Oh, I was there with my friend," and she's left and said, "Well, come with us." She was coming to the Steel Wars thing, and she sat with
Yeah.
us. And then she's been to London and hung out, and we've done everything, and she's been on the podcast a bunch of times, and yeah, so it certainly helps to have that online relationship to a point. And then I was lucky enough with the podcast, and I was conscious to sort of invite some people on beforehand, going, well, it means that if I run into, I think I had Hawes, Struthers, Claire Stribling, maybe somebody else as well, people I sort of knew. I kind of thought, well, who knew would be there and I'd interacted with. I said, well, that'll help also that when I see them in person, it's not the first time. There is a little bit of pre-engagement.
There's a connection there. Yeah.
Yeah,
Got it.
which well, I may or may not have made any difference, but it did sort of help. And I'm probably an exception rather than a rule for Star Wars fans. I'm quite extroverted. I don't have any trouble meeting people, making friends, going up, saying hello to
Oh, dude,
people.
you're all over the place.
I don't mind that at all. I moved to a new country and knew nobody and made a whole new life. I don't,
Sure.
but at the same time, I think I'm quite good at judges of characters and reading social cues and things, and also being like, well, I'm not just going to put myself in the face of people, but at the same time, be conscious of including people as well, which I think make people feel comfortable as well, which I think
That's
is good
awesome.
because it's overwhelming. It can be really overwhelming if you've never been, and even when you have been, it's especially those first days. I'm sure, Sean, you probably feel the same. It always feels like the first day is the day where everything sort of needs the teething, and that's when everybody's hype level is the highest as well.
Well, I think
Especially,
even
it's hard.
as
It's harder
especially
then.
in America, especially when the celebration is here, there are so many freaking people from like our circle. That's like
Yeah.
that's what
Mm,
that's one thing I think I liked about London that felt more approachable, where I felt like, okay, I can actually like get in and like,
yeah,
and I can like really meet people, because when we do it stateside over here, it's like everybody was at Chicago or in Anaheim, and it's
Yeah.
just like, whoa, there's 80 people here that I parasocially know.
yeah,
And
yeah.
so not that
So,
that's a bad thing.
Sean, moving on to you. What was your? When did you first go? What was your? What's
So I
been your history?
so my first like true celebration that like I don't count the one where I went when it was in Indianapolis and like it wasn't like years and years ago.
It's
My
like an
first one was
Yeah.
adventure, right?
Orlando. My first one was Orlando. And I think I spent a couple years kind of being on the outskirts and being that person who was like being in my own head. And like I think it's like that's why I'm so adamantly pushing people anymore to be like, dude, there's nothing to be afraid of. Like
Mm.
you have this mentality in your head that it's going to be really clicky. They're not going to talk. I don't have a
Mm.
podcast. I don't have this like, oh, there's all these like Star Wars podcast celebrity people that I listen to every week, and
Yeah.
they have no idea who I am. And I'm like, hey,
Yeah.
I listen to you all the time, and it's really cool to meet you. And they're like, cool, that's nice. I mean, like, hey, you want to hang out, and we're doing whatever. So I think I spent 2 years doing kind of that. Like Orlando, I didn't really know anybody. Um, that is where I got like I stayed kind of off property. I stayed in an Airbnb, and I think that's why I'm so adamantly against it now, because it was really far away from the convention center, and I feel like it just ruined kind of my time there. I love Celebration, but like I wasn't really a part of anything. Um, and I think I needed that year to really kind of figure out the way the convention works. And I think try not to take it for granted now, where it's like, okay, here's how the panels actually work. Here's how the floor works. Here's kind of like how your day kind of flows. So I did that year. Chicago, I knew more people. I was a little bit more involved. I think at that time I wasn't active on Twitter. And I think like Josh, kind of what you're saying, like having that social media presence at least a little bit
Hmm.
helps you get into things. And so that one, I think it was more of a struggle, because it's like, yeah, I know these people, but they don't know me because I don't really have a presence. So I knew some people, but like not in enough to like know what was going on. And I think things were also pretty not intentionally segmented. Like there would be DM group chats and things over
Yep.
here. Like now I think there's more like Discords, larger kind of things where people maybe a little not more, I don't want to say more inclusive, because I think that makes it sound like it was intentionally not back then, because that's not the case. It's just I think it was this kind of culture and group dynamic was still kind of in its infancy and getting sorted out.
But there's also the
Uh,
Disney factor at Anaheim too, where people were using an evening to go to Disney,
yeah,
and that sort of took away. Some people would go and do that and do other things, and Steele had his show, so that was the thing as well. And sometimes it's kind of like who's just there at certain times. Sometimes there isn't a lot of rhyme and reason. Sometimes there,
yeah,
there is a lot of rhyme and
Yeah.
reason as well. Like we
yeah.
had like we were at Anaheim. There was like there was like a party at at a bar. And it was all the sort of LGBTQ people party that they had.
Mhm.
And we knew a few people who were going and stuff. We were like, oh, that's cool. Wouldn't that be cool to do? But we're over here, wherever. And it turned out that bar was at the end of the street where we were staying. We just didn't know. It's like, oh, if we'd known, we would have just rolled down for an hour and said hello to everybody.
Mm.
But it's
Yeah.
just sometimes you just can't keep track of all the things that people are doing. And like you said, there's so many people there as well. So you're not going to get 100 people in one place mostly. So
Yeah.
Mm.
And I think as long as you don't set your hopes on that, because I think there's been times where I've kind of talked to individuals, so they were like, they really want to spend 100% of that time with like the group, and that's just not, it's not going to be that way.
no,
And I actually encourage people to go do other stuff. Like if you have a group, like a social group like this, to take a day if there's something else going on, go do it. Like I did that in Chicago. Like I wasn't fully in, but like there was a night where I somehow got tickets. So funny story in Orlando, uh, I was able to like get into, I was pretty drunk and I was able to get into the 501st like party. Like I was walking by it and this couple walked by. They're like, "You want our wristband?" I'm like, "Sure. Let's go solo party the rest of the night." And so I went in there and it was just bananas. And so the following year in Chicago, they were having another one. And I'm like, I'm not in the 501st, but like it was open tickets. So I bought one. And so that one of those nights I went and like did that where it's just like in the museum of like science and industry or whatever. And it's like, it was fun. I got to meet different people. I got to get dinner, got to see all this other stuff, got to get incredibly intoxicated and play in a tornado and a German U-boat while hanging out with Darth Maul. It was crazy. So it's like, I do encourage you to like go branch out and do other things. Don't be dependent on that group, but like, all that say, it's like reach out to people, like similar to what Andy and I did last time. It's like, dude, we have nothing, you have nothing to be afraid of. Reach out and like, this is a welcoming group. It's a welcoming con. People want more people there and want people to feel included. And I wish I learned that sooner because I think I would have had, not that I had bad time, but I think I spent so much time in my own head being like, oh, I don't want to come across as like somebody clingy and like fanboyish and be like, oh, I really like your
That's the
stuff.
biggest
Yeah.
fear. That's the biggest fear. I mean, you guys know my story. I came to, I've listened to a heck of a lot of you guys for many, many years. COVID came in. I didn't have a Twitter profile until COVID because I didn't need one. I had no. I was quite blissful in my ignorance and my and being relative and watching from the sideline. And then I obviously started engaging with a few of you guys. And then the opportunity for Celebration London came up, and Lucy said, "Well, why don't you go?" So I'm turning 50 this year. I don't know anyone at all. I'll be on my own. Do you want to come with me? Hell no. No, no, I'm not coming with you. And so I jumped in, and I had the wherewithal to kind of reach out to you, Josh, before
hmm
we first met. I got to know relatively and very weirdly, very very quickly, the Scruffy Boys, who obviously have become great friends since then. Um, and you very kindly invited me to meet up with you on the first night, way before Celebration had even started. And I thought, okay, I'll test the water, see how it goes. Prior to that, Eric had obviously made introductions between myself and Sean. I didn't even know what Sean looked like. I ended up texting him, and I ended up approaching a guy in the hotel bar that I was
That's how a good
basically
story starts, isn't it? I just
Sean, yeah, exactly. Sean texted me and said, "I'm at the bar." I say, "Okay," so I go to the bar, and I said, "Are you Sean?" No, and finally, I
but I can
find
be.
Sean. But I can be, yeah. What are you doing this evening? And then we make our way to Hackney to see you guys, and I'm not ashamed to say I was absolutely cacking myself. I was really really nervous, and I thought to myself, I'll go in, I'll show my face, I'll say hey, I'll suck up to these people that I really appreciate what they do. I'm a big fan, yada yada yada. Get in a cab and go home. Good day all round, and maybe or maybe not, I might see them over the course of the 3 days. And you guys were so welcoming, and it was so easy to jump in, and within minutes, I think I can hold my beer, but I was on some sort of euphoria where everyone was getting together, and yeah, we were getting a little bit drunk as well, but it just seemed relatively natural. It didn't feel forced in any way.
I
And I
trusted that you guys were going to get me home.
Yeah, and it was well, we did that a few
Well,
nights actually.
it was probably slightly selfish on my part because I obviously was probably the closest to a local in inverted commas because I'd lived in London for 10 years and I knew my way around, but I hadn't been back for nearly
But
9
it
or 10
worked,
years.
Josh. It
But
worked so well.
I sort of because I was very conscious of like, all right, well, it's a smaller group. We don't have people like Araj and Steele and people
Mhm.
who in America they kind of gravitate. They have big plans and they do events and things like that. We didn't have that this time, but I thought, all right, well, and it certainly helped that the Scruffies had already separately booked their accommodation in Hackney or near Hackney anyway, and I was keen to stay
Yeah.
there because I knew the area. I used to live there. I'm like, well, and it's on the side of town of the convention center. At least it's not right there, but I thought, well, at least it's sort of close to there, and that was one of my favorite pubs. Selfishly, maybe you would have gone, well, maybe we could have done something closer to the convention center, but there's not a much. It's not
There's not a lot.
very
It's not
central, no.
there.
So unless you're
And the
staying
stuff
there,
that
it would
is
have
there,
been
it's
great.
insanely busy. It's like the
Yeah.
lines out the
So there
door.
were people who were, groups of people who came over and they did, and maybe we could have done something there, and you might have got people would have made the effort, and you would have probably got some other people who didn't want to come to Hackney. But I thought this will be enough, and even if it's just us and the Scruffies and a couple of other people, I think it'll work really well.
But
And
it
it
wasn't,
was just
Josh.
the right size where it was,
You had 20, 25, good 20, 25 people there in the end.
yeah. And I completely
had-
forgot that it was a Good Friday. It was a holiday, or it was Good Friday was the next day. So the pub was absolutely rammed as well. So it did.
It worked. It worked extraordinarily well. And my last, and I think it was that. Sean, keep me honest here, man, because you and I were going back to Docklands, and we took. That's the night. Is that the night that we took Brittany back to that place you
It
were
wasn't.
staying
It
in?
wasn't the first. I don't think it was the first night. I thought it was a.
Okay.
No, I think that was the night
Um,
after. Yeah.
we took one look at it, and it was like, "There's no way you're staying here, man." And again, why would I reach that kind of conclusion for someone that I didn't even know? And it was honestly, Josh, and I don't mean to butter you up here, but I kind of am. The environment you created that first night, and it was intimate. It was really, really nice. Made me feel great. And then the following 3 days, I learned very quickly that once you're kind of, you guys were so welcoming that I very quickly lost any fear I had of being literally on my own and not embarrassing myself and looking kind of desperate. Very quickly I realized that while I may come into celebration, into the event itself on my own, because we were all staying in different places, very quickly we would muster together in one location.
You just
The
became part of
the beanies help.
plans.
The beanies definitely help.
The beanies are a work of genius, honestly. But also, that we would all dissipate. I mean, I saw so much of Sean and so little of Sean at the same time because he was wandering off on his own, doing his own thing, and I got used to that kind of ethic as well. In that it's okay to disappear, do what you want to do, and then you regroup with everyone else, and there's still that vibe, there's still that welcoming vibe going on. Whereas perhaps going into it, I would have thought, well, okay, it was nice meeting them. I've done my bit, slap on the back. I've done my bit. I'll now go. And if I kind of meet up with them later on, then great. If not, I've had a good time with them, and that was it. But we just kept going for 3 days, and it was so nice and so liberating to feel comfortable in that kind of environment where I didn't feel as if I had to prove myself. I didn't feel that I had to, certainly didn't have to come over as the, Star Wars biggest fan or anything. It was just a really, really good vibe. And I would say hands down, and okay, you could probably say, well, there wasn't an awful lot to learn when we were at Celebration anyway. But I would say the friendship building, the conversation, and the fun that we had was infinitely more important than the content we got.
Yeah, we learned that pretty quick at Chicago, and that was that was sort of when we walked away from Chicago, and I think
Yeah.
we might have done a roundup pod, or maybe there was one we reminisced a year later or whatever it was. There's something in the archive somewhere, it might have been with Andy Campbell and Catherine and maybe even Turbo, that leading up, it was all about getting into stuff and seeing stuff
Yeah.
and getting into those panels. And Chicago, we got into those panels. We were in the episode 9 panel, which was amazing, infinitely better than the film, in my opinion, but
Yeah.
whatever. And it was great. But we walked away from that thing going, oh, well, the panels were cool, but how amazing was it? We did this and we saw this person,
Yeah.
and and then it became really clear. And then at Anaheim, we got nothing. I don't think we got a single panel at Anaheim. I think we might have got one overflow room or something for something, and that was that. And I think we actually got into the Obi-Wan premiere because I think Kimberly had some passes and they didn't go, and that's the only reason we got in. So we got nothing, but it was sort of like, oh well, doesn't matter. There's everything else. It didn't become the be
Yeah.
all and end all very really quickly,
Mm.
uh, and that's what sort of made it important. And you sort of focusing on just seeing people and having a good time, and also like how can you, if someone's desperate to get into something, how can you take that pass? So you take that. I got a
Yeah.
poster. You really, really want this poster. You have it. I don't need it. Or I got this patch. Or I got this. Or you can have that. And it all sort of comes back around again. And yeah. So Japan will be curious because it's. I mean, maybe we're not onto Japan just yet, but it it still will
Well,
be a
let's do it.
smaller group. It'll be a smaller
Well,
group again, but it'll be yeah. It'll be
well,
different.
let's talk about Tokyo. So combining the two other questions I had for you. What are your plans for Tokyo? Because I know that they're not locked yet, but what is
Mhm.
your rather than call it plans, what are your intentions for Tokyo,
Yep.
both inside and outside the event itself? And what do you hope to see there? What kind of news do you hope that we get to see? I mean, bearing in mind we've been talking about the latest news,
Yeah.
including
Yep.
Andor landing on the 22nd. So first of all, what are your plans um, for you and the family, and what do you hope we get to see?
So the big thing is that we are planning and taking the girls to Japan,
Excellent.
who are still young. They'll only be 6 and 9 when they go, so they're not big, still not big kids. So I've been to Japan before. When I moved back to Australia, I went via Japan on the way, and Kat met me there, and we had a week in Japan in Tokyo. So we've done it before. We loved it. We always wanted to go back, and said one day we'd take the kids, and this sort of felt like the perfect time to do it. So the plan is that we will go because it falls in Australian school holidays. That we'll probably go a week before celebration, do a week of stuff, and then celebration will be at the end, and then we'll fly home at the end. So that plan hasn't changed. We haven't really booked anything yet. They've for some reason booked celebration right in the busiest tourist time in the
Yep.
year. It's basically this month is the busiest tourist time. They could have done it any other time, but for whatever reason they've done it now. But I think obviously they want tourists there. It's financially probably better for them because they know they'll get the volume on top of the volume, and it's more money or whatever they've got to do. So it'll be what it is. Everybody's going through that, and knowing that the cost is going to be high, but we probably in a weirder position because we didn't get the hotel stuff because we could not. They had nothing for families. It was all 1, 2 single things. So we're probably going to have to stay a little bit further away and commute over to Celebration. We'll work that out. There's even some talk of maybe hiring a car because we'll do some stuff, but it'll happen. We'll get it. We'll get it done one way or the other. It's not a problem, but it does mean that the dynamic will be slightly different because I would like to take my girls, at least one of them, for a day. And I know it's only 3 days. So how is that going to work? Will they go the distance? If they don't go the distance, what's that going to look like? I know Turbo took his boys to London and they're a lot bigger, and I think it was still a mission for them.
Mm.
So I'm going to have to just gauge it. If we get to sort of Celebration and they're pooped and they're not interested, um, I won't do it. But now Sloan is particularly getting into Star Wars. I mean, getting to go to a Star Wars celebration when you're 6 will be quite amazing. I think there's a Supernova convention, which is like a local convention in December. They're doing a winter one. I might try to take her to that just to get a gauge of her attention span. And if we get
Mm.
there and in like in an hour, she's just like, I'm not, I've had enough. I've seen a couple of people dressed up and that's it. We'll see. It might be a little bit much for her because as we discussed, there's all this other stuff that goes on with Celebration as well. And if I've got a 6-year-old and everyone's done and we want to do other things, it might be trickier to do that. And at the same
What I
time, I'm
love,
conscious of leaving Cat with the girls as well the whole time.
I was about to say, one thing what I love about us as a group, um, as a friendship circle as well. You also know that we'll accommodate around
Oh
you as
yeah,
well
I'm sure,
when
but
needs be. I
it's
mean, at the end of the
yeah.
day, if your family are battered because it's an awful lot on young, we'll come out to you. if needs be.
Yeah, so we'll work it out. It it's if it's too overwhelming, we'll just play it by ear. And this is currently where we stand now. Like worst case, if absolutely everything goes wrong and it's too much, I'll be going regardless, and that's already sort of been agreed upon. But the plan is to try and bring everybody up. It might be we might offload the girls, which we've done. We did for London, and we might just go to Japan for a week and do something like that. And Kat, again, like she did in London, she's like, "Well, are you have your little Star Wars fun, and let me know afterwards, and I'll meet you at the bar, and I can amuse myself in Tokyo as well." So we'll find a way to get through one way or the other. But I'm very keen. I'm curious to see how it works in a country where English isn't the first language. I'm just curious to see what Japanese Star Wars fans are like, and hopefully there'll be a level of interaction. I know there'll be a language barrier for the most part. Japanese people I've met are always very friendly, and they want to practice their English as well, which is
Mhm.
good. I mean, I would like to find a way. I mean, the podcast does fine. I don't think we've got any listeners in Japan. I would have any idea to even how you would establish that or do that or get it in there or do any. I've got no idea, but I'm not certainly expecting anybody from Japan to know who I am, which is fine. And I still want to do the beanies as well. And I'm hoping that
Yes.
I think because previous years, like first for Chicago, because I thought it would be sort of a one and only, I just gave them away. And then I had to sort of cover costs the last 2 years and had to sort of say, "Oh, look, I'll do them, but I'm afraid you'll have to just cover the cost of them," and tried to just do them for cost. It was mostly shipping, to be honest, but I'm trying to figure out if I can have them shipped directly to Japan rather than Australia and then take them over to Japan. And it's probably a matter of timing because I don't know if I can just leave a box sitting around because you obviously have to have that buffer of knowing they're going to get there. Because in Anaheim, obviously they turned up the morning of my flight because they got lost, amazingly, and I still got them. And then for the UK, I did it in January and I had them in a box for a month, sitting here waiting for when I was going to take them over. So if I can get them shipped directly to Japan, which I think will be a lot cheaper, I will probably this year try to just give them away again. I won't charge. I will probably and try and do more because I don't have to carry them. So normally that's about 50. If I can do, and I'll do an ask around like I normally do and gauge the interest. And there'll be a lot of people who aren't going who want them anyway, so they'll be put aside and have to
Yeah.
be shipped back or whatever. But
Yeah,
I
I've
think
already
I'll be
been asked if
conscious
I can. I've
carry
already been
some
asked if
back
I, yeah, carry some
because
back for
it's actually the
the
cost of
guys up.
them to make them actually isn't that much. So 50 to 100 or 75 or whatever, it's not a lot more really. So it's, and I'd like to have more of them, and I would like to be able to just give them out a little bit more willy-nilly to people, especially locals as well, and to say, "Hey, look, would you
Yeah.
like a gift?" And try to. Still haven't quite settled on the design, but trying to put a Japanese skew on them a little bit, and and try to give them to people who I kind of know, who obviously everybody that we know who will be there is a default. They'll get one. Don't worry. But then sort of a slightly wider people I've interacted with who've made the effort to come, I would like to just like, here you go, have some as well. So I've just got to try to figure out, can I get them shipped to either where I'm staying or somewhere nearby? I know you can get them possibly to a hotel, but I don't think I can have them sitting in a hotel for a month. It'll have
Hmm.
to be a few
No.
days leading up. So I've got to try to work that logistics as well. I've got to sort of get in touch with the manufacturers and work it out. But and then kind of do the maths and go, okay, there'll be X amount of people we know there. There'll be X amount of people who want that need to go back with somebody to be delivered. There'll be X number I need to bring back to Australia with me as well. And that was like, oh, we went to Queensland a few months ago for a holiday for 2 weeks. And we were at the airport, we were unloading our luggage, and I was just pulling into the airport and I was just looking at this giant pile of luggage going, there is no way that we can drag this around Japan.
No.
I don't know how we're going to do this. And we were pretty conservative, and that was really just a suitcase kind of thing and a carry bag. And I'm going, oh my goodness. So we'll have to work that out. But
Luggage delivery service all day.
yeah, well, we might have to. And we've actually spoken to some friends who did it with the kids, and they actually hired a car, which was actually quite affordable. And they got around, did some trips, and
Nice.
and had that. So there's potentially we could do that as well, and that's fine. I don't necessarily need to drink that much, or do I don't drink much these days anyway. So we'll cross that bridge when we come to it. But as far as what I
So,
want to
so,
see, yes,
sorry. Before just back on the beanie
yes,
side of things, there's at least 3 folk in the UK that you know and love that I will, if it's okay with you, I'll be picking up
oh
theirs.
for
There's
sure,
one guy in particular who happens to be very proficient at art and stuff.
yes,
Who's
yes,
got an
the
an
displays,
empty, yeah, he's got an empty skateboard at the moment
yeah.
that is waiting a new beanie.
Um, yeah, and that's it's great that people love it. And I'm quite happy to do it, and as long as I can make it happen and do it. I mean, this one's just slightly, yeah. I would just like to throw some more out there, and I'm quite happy to eat the cost, especially if the shipping's lower, and it's not that expensive, and it's just getting them there. I've just got to work
Yeah,
that
but if
out.
part of the cost is, to your point, you know, you're going to have to ship it and store it somewhere for a week prior to that, then
Yeah,
you
there
know
must be a service or something. I just
there's
haven't done that
enough there's
research
enough
yet.
of us that are, there's enough of us that are interested
Yeah, and I know that
to
there's people who
take
are actually
take
staying
on
at
some of
the
that. Yeah,
people who are staying right near the convention. So, but it's more going, well, unless I can absolutely nail the timing, going, it'll take 3 months 3 weeks to manufacture, a week and a half to ship, and then it shows up the day of the, if I could
yeah,
land
yeah,
that plane, which I think is probably almost impossible, but I can try. Like, I actually, not to get too much into the weeds, but the first 2 times I did it, I used a local company, and
mhm.
it was more expensive to use them because they actually put their premium on them, and they were the ones that basically lost it, and blah blah blah, were no help whatsoever. And I got the shipping, and it came from China anyway, so they were effectively just the middleman on there.
Yeah,
And because I have a design background, I was kind of going, I don't need these guys to mock this stuff up. I can do it myself. So I went directly to the manufacturer for the London ones, and it was fine.
yeah,
It was easy. I gave them everything they wanted. It wasn't a problem whatsoever. So that did negate some cost on the last ones as well. And hopefully I can just do that again. I've just got to figure out the shipping stuff. I assume you can ship to Japan from China, but we'll find out. If not, we'll make it work.
we'll
It'll
work it
one way or
out.
the other. I don't know. The weather should be warm enough. I mean, that's the thing. Like, the weather should be all right. Where people probably wear them enough. London obviously was really good in Chicago. Anaheim, it was 35 degrees or whatever it was, 90 degrees or whatever it is in Anaheim when we were there. So it was really just as a keepsake that time. But it was a bit funny because most people are in masks as well. So I'm sure people are going, well, I'm already wearing a mask. Putting a woolen hat on my head in the hot weather is probably not really what I want to do.
It helps you identify friendlies. Like, it's like,
Yeah,
oh,
and
my
that was
people,
and then
my
that was
people,
the
my
great thing where
people.
you could spot people. Yeah, which was good. And people still ask about them and stuff as well. So it would be
It
nice to
works,
to
definitely
um
works.
it'd be nice to be able to have a few more, if people just kind of like, oh well, I'd really like one, and be like, here you go, and Christy and Ariel from the Star Wars show got one last time as well, and you know, we follow each other on Twitter, and there's one there if you want, if you're there, and there's some other people. And I remember running into Bobby Moynihan on the floor at Chicago on the last day, and not having any left, and just going, you know, that's a real bummer. I would have loved to have given Bobby Moynihan one if I'd had the chance as well. So it'd be nice to just have a little excess of them
Yeah,
that I
make
could
sure you got some
throw out.
reserves. Make sure you get some
But they
reserves.
do
It's
fill
like,
up a bag very
Andy, give yours
quickly.
back. I want to give it to Bobby Moynihan.
Yeah, sorry, Bobby
Yeah,
Get
Moynihan
back to
for
me.
that. Well, I actually
I'll
went back. I didn't have one, so I left Chicago without one because I got to the very last day, and Dallas Wood from the Bad Motivators came up and was like, how come everybody else got a beanie and I didn't get one? And I went, I gave you one on the first day. He was like, oh, I didn't get one. I'm like, oh, well, I've got none left. So I said, look, you take the one on my head. You have that one, because I had 3 or 4 that I'd left in Melbourne as spares. So I said, so the one that I wore all through Chicago was given to Dallas. So sometimes you've got to. And I didn't even have the one on my head to give Bobby Moynihan anyway because it was already gone. So there you go.
So
But
what are you looking forward to? Or what do you sorry, what do you hope they show you?
well, I
Or
mean,
show
and
us?
or obviously they've dropped this release date, which is 2 days after Celebration ends, or whatever it
Mhm.
is. So I assume that they will show the premiere there. How that works will likely be that you've got to be in a certain panel to get a ticket to do it.
Oh, I hope not.
Um, which
Oh,
It's gonna be the Japanese dubs too. Like no English, nothing.
so it's
It's gonna be
long. I mean,
awesome.
I'd love to. If it's only 2 days later, I can probably wait. But obviously, I mean, I make sure Catherine's in that panel. As long as Catherine's in that panel, I'll be happy.
yeah.
But I'd love to see that. I'd love to see that they sort of they lean into the Andor side of things. I'm supposed to, we do the reviews. I don't know how I'm going to fit that in amongst all the other stuff that we're doing. Whether I wait till I get back to Melbourne and do it a few days after, we might have to. That's logistics. But um, I think there'll be some Mando and Grogu stuff. Is it? It'll be the year after that film comes out, won't it?
Yeah,
I know
it's
they
the
just
isn't it
showed the trailer again at this D23 thing that was just happened overnight.
isn't it
So the
the spring of 26? Have I got that right? Or is it the
Yeah.
winter of
So
26?
I think there'll probably be a panel for that, or at least they'll show something off the back of that. I don't know. Like, obviously some clarity on where we're at with Daisy's movies, what she's doing. But again, like we said, we sort of discussed this. It's all lip service until we're sitting in the cinema, really.
Yeah.
I'd love to see some Visions stuff, like lean into the Visions. I think a Visions panel and get the artists there and really lean into that. Maybe have some more shows off the back of that would be great. I'd love to see some really great Visions cosplays and merch and really lean into all those sort of locally produced characters and designs and stuff. I think that would be great. It would be great if
Mm.
Hasbro had a exclusive that you could get in person on the floor, not that you have to mail away for. And I'm pretty sure Japan wasn't even on the mail away list. So if they do that again, you're giving out a card where you can't even get it in the country where you're from. Hasbro have been the biggest losers the last two celebrations, not having exclusives on the floor. It's just, I don't want to buy one 3 months later. It completely negates the specialness of them. I've got the Darth Maul and Obi-Wan exclusives still on my shelf, and none of the subsequent ones I've even bothered with because they're just like any other Black Series you can buy.
Well,
So
isn't that the only one that you could only get actually at the convention, whereas every subsequent one has been
yeah,
you get a
yeah,
token,
they did
something
a
like that?
small run of those ones. You could get them very briefly, but they're still hard to come by. And I got them just.
Mm.
I didn't get the lottery for it, but I sort of queued up the day that the lottery was exhausted, and you could get in the line and you could get them, and I managed to get them. So that was sort of off the back of that, and I was happy to do that.
That's cool.
But Hasbro's just dropped the ball the last few. Without that, I think that's been a bit of a bummer. Some great shirts, some designs. We spoke before about the artwork for the passes. I'd love to see that on a shirt. I think that would be great. They've got to sort the store out. I still think they need to have the store, but they need to have smaller pop-ups all around the conventions and the arenas where you can buy some of the things and take some of that demand away, take the pressure off the store. I mean, I bought the Chicago Celebration lunchbox one at the arena because they had a little pop-up with a couple of things in it, and I didn't have to
Mm.
go to the Celebration store. And I'm kind of I'll go on the last day and pick over the dregs sort of person. I'm
Yeah.
not going, I've got to get there first because I need a Darth
Yeah.
Maul tiki cup or anything like that.
I made that same mistake as well last year, and I went in last day and I, I, I picked up the dregs, but I didn't curate it very well. So as a result, the majority of the t-shirts are now
Well, I've got like an
are now
extra
just
large Luke Skywalker it didn't fit me before, and then I lost
yeah,
10 kilos and it really doesn't fit me anymore.
yeah, yeah,
So
yeah, yeah, yeah.
it's
And they're
sad because
not
it's a very nice shirt, but it's just sort of like,
yeah.
but
Yeah,
yeah.
I got some shirts, and I've told Sean this story. I got some shirts last year, and some are like almost like a tummy shirt. It's so high up. I mean, I'm 6'2". I'm not a small guy. It's so high up. It's almost like I'm gonna go hula dancing. And there are others that are bigger than it's like wearing a tent. There's no consistency in the QC at all. So what about you, Josh, my friend?
I'm Sean.
What are
My
you?
name's Sean.
Sorry, Sean. Sorry, Sean. I'm going. I'm looking at the questions, which is the reason why I got your name wrong. Um, Hi, I'm Andy.
I
Nice to meet you.
Hi.
What are your plans for Tokyo? both inside and outside the event itself? And what do you hope we'll get to see?
So, in terms of before and after the convention, I think we're kind of flipping what Josh did is doing, where he's coming before and then doing the convention at
Mm,
the end. I think we're doing the convention first, and then Madison's going to come in a couple days later, and then we're going to spend. I don't know how much time. You think I'd know because we booked the flights. Um,
yeah.
a couple days or a week or whatever after doing whatever stuff after. I think we're going to either go. I think we're going to go south and visit our friend in Nagoya, and
Nice.
maybe go south even further. I don't know. I don't know exactly what we're doing, but the current plans haven't changed around like the hotels. We still have those kind of like intermediate hotels, the ones that we
Yeah.
want. But like Josh was saying, like they don't have like the bigger rooms up yet. So we're all kind of in like the singles right now, which I'm not worried about. Like I'm not stressing this celebration as much as I have other ones because I think it'll all just work out. Like we've got housing, so we're good in that regard.
Mm.
Similar to what Josh was saying about like the kiddos and stuff. Madison's wanting to go one day, but I think she's going to be in that same boat of like maybe do a lap around the floor and be like, yeah, that's enough for me. I think I'm going to be done now. So maybe we do that all on the same day
Yeah.
for everybody, so that way there could be a cohort of people who are like, this is not my vibe.
Well, I've got a kids pass. And the kids passes were actually quite affordable, very affordable this time around. I don't know whether it was because the yen was struggling or whatever, but the kids pass was cheap as well. And I just bought the 3 day and said, well, if they want to come, they can come, and if not, they don't have to come.
Yeah.
So I mean, I know Matt is
I'll be
probably
honest with you guys. I'll be honest with you. I mean, Sean, because the tickets went live in the middle of our night. I mean, I'm talking like 1, 2 in the morning. Sean very graciously grabbed my ticket for me. And when I paid him, I couldn't believe the price. I thought the whole thing. I know what you're saying about the children's tickets, but even the adults were like
mm.
half what I paid in London. Now I appreciate it's 3 days rather than 4, but it's significantly better. It's only when I got to the flights that things
Yeah.
started getting
Yeah.
really expensive.
Ours are Australia's flights aren't amazing, but it is a little bit better. Where I've
Right.
sort of heard the reports from you guys, it doesn't seem to be a huge jump back or forth. We've got a lot of places fly there now, and it's a primo, but it is still that peak
Yeah.
season.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
just we've just got to sort the logistics and things out, but we'll get there one way or the other. We'll get there. We just, I think I said this on my pod. We just did our taxes and we're getting our tax returns back. We go, here we go. You know, we'll get a little something that'll help ease the burden. And I got money back, and Kat had to pay, and we're like, well, that threw a monkey wrench in that whole operation, but that's okay. We'll get there. But
If it's any consolation to Kat, let her know. Me too.
yeah,
I did mine. I did mine just before we went away on leave, and yeah, I owe the government
she's
some
like,
money.
she always got it because she was paying her university fees back and stuff. She's always got some weird thing going on with hers, but who knows? But sorry, I don't. I was just thinking about anything else that I've never done a photo opportunity. I was kind of thinking the other day, like if Hamill was there, I
Hmm.
might consider a photo. I kind of feel like that might be the last. No, not last chance, but you know what I mean. Like I kind of feel like that was something I
Yeah.
might consider. That's probably the only photo that I would be particularly interested in doing if Hamill was there. Um,
Hmm.
but I think because I was kind of thinking like, oh, wouldn't it be cool if my daughter's got a photo with Daisy Ridley or something like that? But I think
Oh,
honestly, if there was somebody dressed as Ray on the floor, Sloane would probably just be just as excited. You know what I mean? Like if I went, oh look,
Yeah.
it's Ray, and Daisy Ridley's just there in a t-shirt and a hat, and she's like, "Hello," you know. But then if she saw somebody dressed as Ray on the floor, that would probably mean more to her because there's Ray. Like I
yeah.
think
Yeah.
she
Yeah.
would just go, "Well, I guess there's a
Yeah.
late that's Ray," but I don't think it would make that much difference. I'm kind of going, "Oh, we spent $250 to." Get a photo with Daisy Ridley, whereas the cosplayer was more impactful. But
Well, and I'm sure the cosplayers are going to be in nuts from every time from the time I went
Oh,
to
it's
Japan
gonna
before
be.
around Halloween. Like their craftsmanship for costumes is unreal. So I'm interested to see that, especially the competition. I may actually go to that this time around.
So
do you
In
know what
terms
the
of other,
logistics
oh,
of the hall itself is? Like, how big is the big hall? Is it comparative to? Is it
This
sort
I
of
think this convention center is pretty big. I think this is supposed to be a a pretty nice new one. Not new, but
mm,
like nice and big. From what I've read, I don't know.
yeah.
Like I can't speak authoritatively on it.
Or which sort of the main room, the biggest what the biggest room holds, sort of all that kind of stuff. Like obviously the London, the Exco, its main wasn't huge. Like it wasn't a
Yeah.
huge, like Anaheim, they had the basketball stadium, and
I
Chicago as
still don't
well.
I still don't understand like what they did in London. The XL Centre is massive. It's absolutely enormous,
Mm.
and yet they seem to organise the celebration in half of it, where they and the rest of it was
And the
redundant.
crossing across the thing was weird.
I
Like they
didn't
put it all at
understand
one
that.
end, and then they had everybody crossing to get to both sides, and then all the big rooms you had to go through. So it was this weird.
Yeah,
Yeah, I mean, they kind of put all the
but
queuing on that one side. I kind of got that, but yeah, they did make some interesting decisions on that.
I had I had a lot of our friends, that had obviously been to previous celebrations, saying, "Wow, it's a lot smaller. The venue's a lot smaller than
Mhm.
I thought." And it's like, actually, guys, it's not. It's huge. It's absolutely enormous. You should see where because Sean was staying in a hotel quite close to the venue, and the hotel where he was staying at was at the redundant side of the XL Center. So he knew you could see for yourself, Sean, just how big the venue is, and they just didn't
Mm.
use
Yeah.
it,
Well, they
which I
put
Yeah.
found really, really strange.
to their credit, they had their food options were great there. Like at
Oh yeah,
Anaheim, it was a nightmare to get anything to eat at any time, and it was all
Yeah.
a bunch of food trucks in one spot outside in the heat. There was barely anything in the convention, so we just went hungry. Like I had breakfast and then dinner, and that was about it. But London
I
yeah,
I
had,
hate
had
I hate the
heaps of
Anaheim Convention
food.
Center.
London had heaps of food. You could even get beer you could get beer if you wanted beer, and it think that really helped. There was more places just to sit and to mingle at places as well,
Yeah.
especially that on the 4 days. The Sunday, my experience, the fourth day is always sorry, the second last day is always the hardest. The Sunday, because you have the big Saturday night. You're
Mhm.
not fired up because it's the end at Monday. You're just sort of getting through on the Sunday. So I
yeah.
remember spending a lot of time sitting with the scruffies in that big sort of food bit there. And I mean, that was the thing when we talk about Melbourne of having, we've got a huge convention center that's right on the water, right in the middle of the city in Melbourne, and it's got the planetary room, which seats 10,000 as well. It could be done. Like we've definitely got the facilities to do it. So hopefully, who knows, one day.
You've also got an amazing choice of food out there. Anyway, from my
Yeah,
experience of being, I
I
mean,
we've talked about it.
you've got the Western influences, but you've also got the Eurasian influences as
Yeah,
well, and
there's
it's
stacks
really
of
broad.
places,
Yeah.
and we've talked about, and I've my head back in my head, I've gone, oh, well, if they did do it in Melbourne, like what would that look like? Would it,
Mm.
as far as like if we got the same number of people who would come to Japan or London, where it's a smaller, devoted group of people, and going, okay, well, where would you take them? Where would you take them to dinner? Or there's a million places to, my brother-in-law runs pubs, so there's a million bars and pubs that you could recommend, and
Mm.
what would that look like? And it's yeah, one can dream. You never know, but I think I'm 99% sure that they'll do it the year after. Like they'll do 2026. They'll do another one, and it'll be in the States. They've got a movie coming out that year. They haven't been
Yeah.
in America for 4 years or something by then, it'll be.
Mm.
Um, I think that's a pretty safe bet, but
Interesting.
you think getting tickets to Japan was tricky. I think every man and his dog will be.
Yeah. 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 Sean, what else are you looking for? Sorry, what else? What else are you looking forward to, or any other incremental plans outside of celebration itself?
What I'm looking forward to mostly is the merch and the artwork and stuff that'll be unique to Japan. Not that I want to fill
Yeah.
my house up with everything Japanese themed, but I do like that poster that's on the floor. It's like I'm looking for stuff that I really can't get here with kind of that Kurosawa theme. I'm very excited to go and see the different types of vendors and artists that are there. That's kind of I think my
Mm.
biggest one. I'm actually not jonesing for panels or like, oh, expecting to see this or this or this. It's like I want like more of the the Japanese influence on Star Wars and stuff on there. I want the stuff on the floor. I want the art show. I'm interested to see how the queues work, because queuing in Japan is top tier, especially going to like Disney and stuff. I'm curious to see what the halls and stuff, the queues are for like the panels and things. The food. I mean, and just really hanging out with the people that, especially since it's shorter. I think it's going to be hard. To quote Jimmy Dice, hard and fast. Just getting in and
I think there'll be less chopper. I think it'll be big. They'll be, which hopefully I'm hopefully doesn't mean that, because because they sort of do big panels in the morning, and then I hope that doesn't mean that all of a sudden there's huge panels all day every day. I think you need the time to be able to do other stuff and kick around. It'd be a bit annoying if you're like, well, I'm in a panel from 11 till 12 till 3 till 4, and that does affect the smaller, because I like the, when you can't get into stuff, you're like, I'll go to the Kenner Toys one and roll down and just check that out, because that's what I can get into, and you can kind of mosey in. If they're like, oh no, we've got to put big stuff all the time. But I do like kind of 3 days.
I'm kind of hoping that there's not as many big panels, because I know sometimes they'll do that big one at 10 or 11, and then that kind of next big one right after, which you can't hit both. And I think with 3 days, it's like, just make the big ones better. Like, just make them heavy hitters, get them done.
Like a movie panel, a TV panel, and then maybe it'll be video games, or I don't know, or other stuff on Disney Plus, or it'll be like Mandoverse panel shows or TV, Mando and or Ahsoka, and then movies, whatever that looks like, and then Visions, if they do Visions or other stuff, or whether it's video games or miscellaneous, but like, we don't need the, like they had the one in Anaheim, which was like the documentary about ILM. Like, that's great, but it's not an A-tier panel. We don't need to be in the lot.
I don't need a Bad Batch season 3 premiere panel. Like, that's like, I went to it and I loved it, but it doesn't need to be a heavy hitter 10 o'clock Hall H kind of.
Catherine, naturally, and I went to an ILM panel that was run by an independent guy called Jamie Benning, who basically is the guy who runs the Film Inventors a podcast. And he had a very intimate, very, very intimate panel with the ILM guys that were working on Andor. And that was a lot more insightful and, in my mind, better than the main ILM event itself, because it was almost too broad. It was almost too broad that it didn't kind of say a lot.
You want to get in the weeds a little bit, don't you?
Exactly. And it was, and obviously it helped an awful lot having Catherine with me, because she's like losing her mind, because it's Andor, right? So she's kind of losing her mind, and it was so good, and it was so intimate. And then another, I remember another panel I went to, and it was, and I chose that over the panel I got into because it was Doug Chang. And I was so close to actually shaking the guy's hand, but I didn't have the nerve to do so, and I wish I had. But yeah, some of those smaller panels in particular I find quite endearing.
Well, they did quite well at London. Because I think Anaheim, they had an issue where they sort of, some of the really small ones weren't very well attended. And there's certainly some people running some stuff with not many people there and things, sort of stuck at the end of the day kind of thing. And I think London, they sort of changed the criteria on the smaller ones and made them more specific. And I think they're all quite well attended, some of the smaller ones I went to as well. And there's talk, like we've talked about, like, well, will we throw our hat in the ring? We want to do a panel. And it's sort of like, oh, it'd be cool to say that you did it. And it would be cool to invite friends and fellow podcasters, and we're here, we're representing, we've got something to say. Wouldn't that be an amazing thing? But at the same time, it's like, well, what is it? Is it just because you can do it? Does it bring something? Is it stuff that people wanted to do? And also, if you're not in a predominantly English speaking thing, if you go, we're going to do 10 years of the Force Awakens or something like that, is there enough interest? But again, if it's in English and everything, got 80% of people are Japanese, and they just go, well, what are you even talking about? And it's just inside jokey, and what is it?
It's a big task as well, though, mate. I mean, at the end of the day, it will change the dynamic of your trip.
Absolutely. And if it's only 3 days as well,
you want to do a good job. You'd want to do an amazing job. You want to make sure that, that there was good content for people to enjoy that didn't know you.
That's the thing. I don't think we could get off that. I know, the podcast
And that's stress.
is and the podcast is fine, but it's not. We're not Molly and Alex, and we're not
Yeah,
Stinger.
yeah,
We
yeah.
don't have those big, the name you get by on that, and
Yet.
so you'd have to be a bunch of people you don't know are talking about the Force Awakens, which okay, people love it. It's a 10-year anniversary. Maybe you could do it, but at the same time, it's only 3 days, and like you said, if they're cramming everything into 3 days, and I've got to take half a day out to organize this thing, and I've got one of my kids there as well. It's just,
Yeah.
yeah, I feel like it
It's
might
a
just
lot.
be a step too far, as opposed to I think if there was a Melbourne celebration and you were representing Australia and Australian content makers, I think you'd go, let's do something, and I would bring in Australian content makers, whether that might be the Blue
Yeah.
Banther Milk guys or Catherine or like the Ray side or other people I know, Force Material, Baz, and those guys, and who will be there and go, let's get some local content creators and let's do something in Australia and do it from that point of view. I think that would probably make more sense.
Ladies and
So
gentlemen, your compare for this evening, Mr. Matt Mole.
yeah, that's right. And and I think in that situation could work quite well. So um, I think at the moment there's too many unknowns about it, but yeah, we'll see. We'll see. There's plenty of other people who can do that, and I like supporting the little guys as well on those
Yeah, no,
channels
without a
as
doubt,
well.
without a doubt. And like I
Um,
said, the passion that goes into them and the content is a lot better. I'll be quick. Because we're taking way too much of your time up.
that's okay.
For me, um, I'm hard and fast. So I'm leaving the UK on the Tuesday. I arrive on the Wednesday, which gives me an hour. Sorry, an hour. It gives me a day on the Thursday to kind of acclimatize and work a few things out and basically uh, 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 try and get over the lag and obviously try and work out what the next 3 days look like. And then I fly back on the Monday morning. So I literally am going to be
Oof.
there
Hit and run, get it
just
done.
yeah. I'm literally there just for the event itself. Well, I think I've told you before, it's Lucy and my 30th wedding anniversary next year.
Yep.
So we're planning a lot. And so my holiday or my annual leave is going to be a premium next year. And
So you'll
so
already be off
I
because it'll be Easter holiday anyway. So that's sort of
yeah, yeah. I typically don't take that time off because it's. I mean, it's crazy when you try and book something, as I've
mhm.
found out already. We're in a very lucky position these days in that both of our girls have grown up and left home. They're
Yep.
they're independent ladies now. They're working, and so we tend to holiday outside of school holidays and national holidays so that we get
That's the dream.
we yeah, exactly. And we and we enjoy it quite a lot. And in fact, as opposed and for economies of scale, what you can do is you can kind of squeeze in an extra holiday because you're not paying as much because obviously you're going off peak. But anyway, so yeah, I am stuck for time a little bit because we've got our own plans as a couple for next year.
Yep.
So it literally is, as Jimmy would say, hard and fast, in and out. And so therefore I'm not going to experience an awful lot of Japan or Tokyo. I'm not going to experience an awful lot of the culture. I'm not going to experience an awful lot of the the
Mm.
surroundings, and so on and so forth. Um, which I'm not annoyed about because if I was going to do that, I want to do it with my wife anyway. It's some
You'll
place that
feel it.
we
You
both
you feel it as soon as you get there. Like
yeah.
it's
And so
it's different enough where it's even if you go to a European country, like obviously America or somewhere like that, you soak it while you're in there. But Japan, you feel it. You'll get as
yeah,
soon
yeah,
as you
yeah.
land, you'll feel immersed, even if you're there
I
for a
was
short amount of time.
Well, that's what I was going to say. What am I looking forward? So, with that in mind, with what I'm looking forward to the most, and kind of Sean stole my thunder a little bit in that I actually want celebration itself to be to be as Japanese as possible.
Mm.
The artwork, the we joked earlier on about would we see a dubbed version of Andor season 2 episode 1. I'd love that. I would love that. That would for me would because I can see it in my own language anytime I want. But to
Mm.
have that experience, and maybe some of the panels may well be in Japanese. And again, I'd love that because I was feeling at the very least I was getting some kind of experience of the culture. And so yeah, and then like, I mean, I love Japanese artwork like you, Sean. I love Japanese take on things. I loved, is it the Tobayuki? Yeah, Kobayuki. Anyway, the samurai Vaders and the samurai stormtroopers. I'm trying to remember the name of the company that does it, and I'm doing a really bad Kobo. Anyway, I'll fix it for next week.
You good with the
But
food?
yeah,
You don't have any problem with the food?
no problem at all. No problem
Yeah,
at all.
same here. I love it.
I love it.
The
Absolutely
weirder
love
the
it.
better for me when it gets to
Yeah, I
Japanese
mean,
food.
it's I mean, a lot of it is a lot of the food that like yakisoba and the rest of it. It's kind of like their junk food anyway. So I mean, I love it. I
You
love it.
can get all the Western food if you want it. If you're kind of like, that's not for me and I just want a hamburger, you can get a
Yeah,
hamburger or a pizza or whatever you want. It's very accommodating that way if you need it, because they love all that Western stuff as well. But if you want to get
Do you guys have any?
into the weeds,
Do you guys have anything you have to eat while you're there, or any like anything you're looking forward to?
I mean, if I could get back to I think when I went the last time, it was just as the old fish market was closing and they were about to move into the new one. So I'd love to go back to the fish market because the food was phenomenal there. It was just like they'd have the fish market and there were just vendors and you could just get these huge bowls of sushi and whatever you wanted. I'd like to go back to the new one and experience that and just sort of go to town on
Nice.
that. But I love like ramens and all those sort of things. I just love when you go into a bar and because of their licensing, they have to give you food. So you sit at the bar and then they just get the little grill out and they'll just grill you a couple little chicken skewers
yeah.
at the end of the bar and they here's that's with your beer, and it's great. And my kids are actually really good eaters and they'll be fine. They'll eat most things without a problem. So we won't have to worry about that, which will
That's
be good
cool.
because that's just one less thing we have to worry about. So yeah, you never
There's
have
only
enough time.
one. No. To answer your question, Sean, no, I'm looking forward to the food a lot, a heck of a lot. Very, very rarely have I not had a good time experimenting. I'd say the only time I had a bad time with experimenting was when I spent about a month or so in Taiwan. So I was in Taipei City, and everything that I was eating was great. It was fine, but I felt as if I wasn't experiencing real what the locals eat.
Salt of
And
the earth.
yeah, a colleague of mine said, "Well, okay, if you've got the if you're so inclined, come with me one night and I'll take you out for dinner." And I ate some very traditional um, Taipei food that is the like I said, it's the only food that I really did not enjoy because of what I was eating and how I was eating it,
Nice.
and how it was cooked, or rather not cooked. But anyway, I'm looking forward to it, mate.
Yeah.
Why? Do you have any recommendations?
Oh, I just want to get very specific handmade black sesame mochi. That's all I want. That's all I care about right now.
Okay.
I mean, it's very specific, but that is what I want right now.
Nice.
Please.
So the context is when we were there last time, we went to an old tea house on the Tokaido Road, and they had handmade mochis that were like, they're so handmade that they had like charcoal like on them from cooking them, and it's just, that was the best thing I've ever had in my life. It's like I know I won't get that again because that's way out in the sticks, but I want good handmade.
The approximation,
black-
whatever I can get it. Whatever,
Yeah.
just go to the convention hall and ask for that.
Give me
you
give
got
me
that,
the
a vending machine over there? Can I get that?
Yeah, give me the Konbini or the 7-Eleven version. Like, I'll be fine. That's all I care
Well,
about.
the food, the 7-Elevens is great too, as well.
Yeah.
They've all the little stuff, fried stuff is great. So I'm just, yeah, we've talked about going back the moment we left, really, and it's been a bit of a long road, and it'll be a different experience. But yeah, I'm really looking forward to it. It'll be a different celebration experience. But I like I said, I'm so confident that there'll be an American one. I'm quite happy for this one to be weird, whether it's bigger or smaller or more busy, or because I've got my kids there and less, hectic.
Yeah.
But it'll be, I think it'll be cool. I think it'll just be fun. It'll be good that we'll have enough of a little crew of people that we know. And I think because of what it is, and I think because there'll be less people going, I think it's actually a good opportunity to mingle with other people we don't know as well, or maybe peripherally know a little
Yeah.
bit who'll kind of be
Yeah,
there
yeah.
as well. And I think that's really great. So I'll probably try and get a little bit more active on some groups from things and say, hey, we'll be here, and come and say hi and just hang and do some stuff. So I think it'll be a good opportunity. And like worst case, we've got each other, and so it'll be
Exactly.
great just to see people, if nothing else, because it's going to be 2 years, and 2 years is a long time to wait to see your mates.
Exactly. Right, we've broken the seal, Sean, of 2 hours again. We've done it again. And we've done it with the guy that is the most proficient podcaster I know, that is always on time. He runs a tight ship,
Yeah, but
and
I
we
don't have
have
to. I don't have to
completely.
do anything in this. I can just hang up and go.
No, you
So
don't.
let you guys
No,
run.
you don't.
It's fine.
Okay,
It's
man.
fine. So it's good. It's a pleasure.
Josh, buddy, thank you so much for coming on. Thank you for your friendship. Thank you so much for everything you've done for Sean and I. And where can people find you, mate? And if you don't know, I'm doing this out of a courtesy, but to be honest with you, everyone that listens to this already knows who you are. But anyway, where can everyone find you?
I do a Star Wars podcast called Star Wars Spelt Out, where you can just find the usual places, Spotify and Apple Podcasts and everywhere. And it's just a semi-regular Star Wars chat with people, friends in our fandom, friends we know really well, sometimes left field guests and stuff. And when the shows come out, we do the recap shows as well, which Andy is a regular on. And I do that. And I also do a Peppa Pig podcast, which is dormant at the moment. We've taken the year off just because life's gotten in the way. But I recap Peppa Pig with my good buddy Matt Frost. And hopefully there might be something coming before the end of the year, hopefully as well, which just, there's no time limit on Peppa Pig. So it just bubbles away in the background. People listen to it, which is quite cool as well. But it's just great. I'm just two guys who weren't on a mic before doing their own podcast and being great mates is just awesome. And it's really, really heartening. And you guys are two of the most generous people I know. You're always sticking your neck out for everybody else. You're always helping out. You're always doing things. Other pods, speak so highly of you as well. And it's just great to be on. And I'll come back anytime, and we'll get you
Definitely.
guys both on Spelt Out again, maybe as a duo. I think we'll try, and when the timelines align, and I know it's tricky, but we'll find a way, and we'll do it. And at absolute worst, it'll be at Celebration next year.
We need to get you back as well, because when Sean gets around to it, I would like to know what you think of, because you've completed Outlaws, haven't you?
Yes. Excuse me. Yes, I
Yeah.
have. Just the story
Yeah,
anyway. I haven't done everything, but yeah.
We need to follow up on that.
Cool.
Sean, buddy. Sean, I think that I can safely say that part 1 of the Road to Celebration was a great success.
Yes.
Look forward to talking to you regular time on Wednesday. So we're back to normal business as usual on Wednesday.
Thank you for accommodating me.
No, mate. I've just got back from holiday, so I wasn't around anyway. So the stars aligned, so it was absolutely perfect. But Sean, I'll speak to you again in 3 or 4 days. Love you, buddy. Give my love to Madison, and take us out, mate.
Well, my brain's getting to the point of like mushy peas at this point. So if I fumble the bag more than usual on this outro, then yeah, it's COVID. What are you gonna do? Thanks everybody for listening. Thank you, Josh. Really appreciate it. Thank you for all the kind words. It's always a pleasure getting to be on pods and hang out with your friends and just chew the fat, as Andy would say. Check out Josh's pod. Check out if you want to reach out to us, you can find us at justshillin.com, where we've got links to everything, including emails and voicemails. You can find me a lot more active on Blue Sky now, because I think everybody's over there now, and it's getting crazy. So yeah.
Oh, that's
I'm
a good
over
point. Sorry to interrupt. That's a good point.
there. Go ahead.
This is quite the momentous episode, actually, because this will be the last episode that we publish or that we announce on X, formerly Twitter. So me, Sean's already there, but me, Sean, and the podcast are officially migrating over to Blue Sky henceforth. So you'll find us all there. I'll put all the details in the episode update.
Yeah. Thanks again. Until next time. This has been Road to Celebration #1 in the books, in the bag, whatever you say. I don't know.
Down the road to celebration.
I like it.
Everybody's watched Agatha
That's all I
all
got.
along then? Okay.
I know. I was like,
You'll get that later
I like
on.
it. That's nice.
We'll co-opt it.
I like it.
Have a good week, guys. Take care.
Cheers, guys.
Bye.